Let's try that again. Happy Friday night, everybody. It wouldn't be an NLG show if there wasn't something wrong at the beginning of the show. Oh my goodness. What is happening, everybody? Yeah, so Skype, Microsoft, we love your Xbox, but can you stop mucking with your other stuff? We gotta,
not the most efficient software, I wouldn't say.
No. We got a Skype update that allows you, as you can see with Peter, blurs your background, which is all great, except turn my CPU into Jello. So
true.
Everything's fine now, perfectly fine once I turn that off. So, what is up, everybody? Welcome. It is Friday night, and the feeling is right, and we got a great, awesome show tonight. I have got with me what you can see on your screen is an all-star panel. And we are going to talk, well, what used to be the greatest company on the planet.
Woo! Yes, sir.
Sega. And all good things Sega. And I am just absolutely pleased to have our guests with us tonight. First, though, I want to introduce the main man to my left, the one who's not seeing Avengers tonight, Peter.
Oh, yeah.
What's up, brother?
It's going, man. Glad it's Friday. And, no Avengers still. It's either on Blu-ray or streaming available. So.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Because I'm just a cheapskate, that's why.
Hey, you're going to pay $20. You may as well pay $25 and own the damn thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Got my Riesling going tonight. This is going to be good. I've got to tell you, this is going to be fire. To the middle, the center square. He is the man from Four Guys with Quarters. Mike, whose last name I've never learned. Inferno, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? Glad to finally be on Next Level Gaming. This Sega Roundtable's right on my alley. It's good to talk the history of gaming and let some people know that might watch our shows that, gaming was once good old fun with not a lot of nonsense, and I'm sure we'll get into the good old days tonight and talk about some of our favorite titles from back in the day, maybe get me nostalgic enough to drop some big money on some of this retro gaming that seems to be becoming very expensive to collect for lately now that everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. So so we'll get into some good stuff tonight. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. And then, let's see if I still have this. I don't think I do. If I do, it's going to be awesome. You know what? I'm going to skip over you because I want to see if I still have this video. I might not, but if I do, I'm playing it. So we're going to go to the end and the faceless wonder of Retro Renegades. Jago, he's here. I said Sega, and he came running. What's up, man?
Yes, I did.
How are you?
I'm good, brother, and what a perfect night to join with all the Sega deliciousness talking going on, brother. Let's go.
I know. All right, I don't have it anymore, and I don't know why, and now I'm angry with myself. I should have prepped for this, but that's all right, because he is. I can see he's a man who should just introduce himself. The smoothest voice on the internet. The leader, well, one of the leaders of the Four Horsemen of Gaming, of the gaming realm, whom we have a fantastic treaty with, Lord Cognito of the Ironlords. It is an honor to have you back on. An honor. I am so happy you are here.
Absolute pleasure, man. This was like, besides long overdue, just good people, great gaming company that we all have tremendous emotional ties with. And when you announced that you were doing a Sega Roundtable, I couldn't get here faster.
Yes, sir.
There was nothing gonna stop, including Endgame Fastback. But all jokes aside, salute my brother. I know he's out there, he's watching it. But man, I'm so happy to do this. As a Sega kid, this means so much to me, and to speak to my brothers who have that same passion that I do for this company. It means a lot, man, and I'm going to get to geek out. I'm going to get emotional. We're going to get retro. We're going to get nostalgic. I'm hyped, big man. Jago's in the building, Inferno's in the building, HTK. Let's do this, man.
Yes, and you guys are the first ones that I thought of when we were going to like I said before the show, man. If you couldn't do this, or Mike couldn't do this, Jago can do this, I'd have postponed the show until all of you guys could be here. It's just what's funny is we're going to be educating Peter tonight.
Yes, because I've never owned a Sega system, so my retro mini Sega device is my first one. So this is kind of like a like an appetizer.
Yes,
Blasphemy.
Appetizer. That's fantastic.
Yes.
We are. It's so Sega is a name that became so well known in the 90s.
Sega.
Just as you heard at the beginning.
Beautiful.
To come out and take on the king. And
we do what Nintendo don't.
Exactly.
That's right.
Buster Douglas knew it. Pat Riley knew it. Tommy Lasorda knew it. And then you see in the opening video, he even got Joe Montana.
Yeah. Joe Montana Sports Talk Football.
Well, which led the way, gentlemen. Which led the way for NFL 2K. And we can talk about that tonight. We can talk about it. This is a no holds barred Sega discussion. There is so much history with where Sega was, how they got to where they went, and then, and this is my opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be shared by everybody else, but I've called them on the kind of 20-year spiral downward. Because they really, look, all deference to games like Yakuza aside, they're not the company they used to be. And ever since they were acquired by Sammy, they just haven't been themselves. And I know that they're working the Atlas catalog after acquiring them, but that's not the same. It took a third party to make a Sonic game that we all loved.
Yeah.
So tonight's about the good old days, though. The Genesis, the Master System, the Saturn. Yes, I said the Saturn.
Saturn.
And the Dreamcast. And let me and I got
excuse me, Sega CD 32X. My
Sega
main
CD,
baby.
yes.
Yep. So, bar none, one of the greatest fighting games of all time, right here. This was a game that proved that Sega could hang in the 3D space. I know they didn't. I know they didn't build that console for 3D, but they made it work. They made it work. So what I want to do is I want to get some perspective from you guys and where and how you got into Sega. What was your first system? What was your take me through your journey through Sega and to where we are today. And Mike, I'll start with you. You're in the middle square. Kick it.
All right, man. For me, it was the Genesis on back in the early '90s. Of course, I had an NES. That was my main. Had a underbed storage container full of NES games, no doubt. So my loyalty was to Nintendo at the time. But, the advertisements kind of grabbed my attention. The more mature games, the better graphics, the better sound, what Nintendo don't, like we kind of said a little bit earlier, of course. Blast processing, all that stuff. I got to admit the marketing was on point then when all parties kind of agreed on how to run the system across countries, you know what I mean? And when that agreement kind of stopped, that's when the downhill spiral really started, honestly. But back in the good old days of the Genesis, the games were just so much more mature, and the most probably well-known, difference in maturity, if you will, would be like a Mortal Kombat release across platforms when one had blood and one didn't, and those kinds of things to when you're a little, young boy, for me, I was, 7, 8, 9 years old, that was a big deal. Like, I was like, oh man, that's really, that's more realistic. That's cool. The golden axes, the Contra Hardcore, like that kind of stuff was just so much more mature than what Nintendo was offering at the time, and Nintendo tried to catch up, granted, with the SNES and everything, and that's really what got me into it. Sonic was awesome, great mascot, really fast paced compared to Mario. I mean, that's that was one of the talking points of the blast processing, right? Is that the blast processing made faster games happen, and you saw Sonic zooming all across the screen, and you were blown away by that. I mean, you couldn't help but be blown away, and Sega had the experience in the arcade. I went to the arcade as a young kid. Nintendo really didn't have the experience there. So, you saw some of the home ports start coming to the Genesis, albeit not very good. But you know what I mean. And that's kind of where I started. I got a 32X, Sega CD. List goes on and on. But I mean, we'll talk about those a little bit more when we get to those sections. But for me, like, the Genesis was really the starting off point and really made me value Sega as, a real player, because it was hard, it was hard to trust a new company once you'd already been, once you already knew like the Marios of the world, it was kind of tough, but yeah, I mean, I want to let some other people talk, so I feel like I'm just rambling, but
it's all right. I get the energy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where it started. I mean, I was one of the people that was big on the 32X and not on the PlayStation, not really on the N64 too much, even though the 32X only had not even 50 games really. But a lot of those games were incredible, like very good, almost arcade perfect ports. And then, same is true on the Dreamcast. I mean, a lot of arcade perfect ports there as well. So yeah, I mean, Saturn I kind of got into a little bit later. I recently repurchased a Saturn for collector's sake, and yeah, it's damn expensive to collect for, but I mean, it's a rush, man, to collect for some of these rare things, and just to play some of those 2D fighters that are just incredible on the Saturn that blow the PlayStation away, no doubt. Not to be fanboying, but it's
Sega podcast. You ran proud, baby.
They did, brother. They did. You ain't fanboy.
yeah. I mean, the 2D fighters, all the 2D games on the Saturn were just so next level, and to transition from, especially when you're younger, maybe when you're older, you kind of want more of the 3D stuff, and you value that a little bit more. But when you're younger, I feel like, you want to just transition kind of slowly, like play more what you're used to. And I feel like the Saturn was a nice, slower transition versus going like all the way into 3D. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's kind of a little too theoretical for this podcast, but but I mean, I just loved every Sega's platform I owned, even the Saturn, as much hate as it got, still love that. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I want to let somebody else talk, but sometimes you get excited, you just want to ramble. But we got 5 people here, so let some other people ramble for now.
That's all right. And we started rambling so much, I forgot to say hello to the chat room. And I see some great people in there. Kaibatsu, who happy birthday, by the way, again, sir. And Project Jeff, I did not hold on. Let me scroll up there because I want to make sure he understands. I was not trying to say that Sonic Mania wasn't a good game. It was a fantastic game. What my point is that it took somebody other than Sega themselves to finally make it. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
The last couple of Sonic games, to be honest, weren't the greatest. And we've been pining for. I've been pining for Sonic Adventure 3 myself. I would love to get another Sonic Adventure because those to me were fantastic. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. And so Lord Cognito, sir, the gaming shinobi,
What's going on, man? Oh,
and I know part of your story because we talked about it.
Yeah,
before.
you know the story.
I want you to tell these people because it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I mean, Sega means so much to me, and as you know, Sting, like for me, it was always the arcades. I'm older, so going to the arcade was just so big, and at the time, Yu Suzuki and these guys, I mean, they had all of my favorite games. When it came down to the Hang-On, the Outruns, the Space Harriers, the Afterburners, and of course the legendary Shinobi. So, it was one of those things that I'll never forget. Like as a kid, you go to the arcade and you're like, if I get older, one day I will own that. Like I want that in my house. Like that was literally my MO. And as I got older, and as Sting knows, the story was that some old Texas arcade distributors had the arcade Shinobi, and I was able to get it via eBay. So I got that thing still in my house. Like it's just so many memories. But for me, the arcade was the base for Sega. So it started out my love with the Master System. It was much of an easier transition. Shout out to Lord Bill Stillwell in the chat. That's a Sega guy right there, man. Salute the platform director of Microsoft, now working with the xCloud. That's my guy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, like Altered Beast, exactly. He knows.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get to my story. Don't worry.
I'm gonna get to the Genesis, but for me, actually, it was the Master System. The Master System was the foundation. And just to see, like I said, them bring those arcade titles home, and then have a Double Dragon that was a 2-player co-op Double Dragon, unlike the NES version, right?
Yes.
I remember playing games like Zillion. You know what I'm saying? Again, all those arcade games came home. You had the Sega card, you had My Hero, you had all these little collection of games, and it had its personality. And granted, next to Nintendo, the NES at that time, they were getting killed. But it's still, for me, it was a more powerful system. I believe it had the Z80 chip in it at the time. You know what I'm saying? If you put it spec-wise, the Master System outperformed the NES. So it just came down to the support, the titles, and then the Genesis came, and that was like the spiritual reboot, right? Like that was Sega at its prime, the aggressive marketing the Genesis does. You know what I mean? I remember seeing that commercial and seeing sprites like Last Battle and the character walking, and you were just like, wow, I can't believe graphics are looking like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And as that came out, you started to see more closer the arcade parallel, where it's like, we're so close to what we're getting from in the arcade to now what we're getting home. And man, the titles go on and on. I mean, like I said, Revenge of Shinobi. I mean, I can go on and on. The Streets of Rage, that changed the game. You know what I mean? God. Yes. So I mean, it was like their final fight for your house, and then the last thing, and I know Bill will appreciate this. He's in the chat. Is that if you're a sports guy, Genesis was where it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, Genesis.
It was like if you had the Lakers versus Celtics, the Maddens, whatever sport EA did, it performed so well on Genesis that it was the de facto sports nut console. The NHLs, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, Madden, any sport that came out just was so well. Even remember they had the yellow tab cartridges on the side. You know, when you plug them in, that's the EA card. Oh man, so many memories. And like I said, I mean, I can go on and on about Genesis, but Genesis was the pinnacle. And I mean, I know the 32X, I think King and those guys had it. Money was kind of short for me at the time, so I didn't have everything. But, the Sega CD, to see the transition with that, how great the music was, how much of a, jump that was. And then, now I'll be honest, Saturn wasn't my bag. I'll be honest, kind of cooled on that. That was Sovereign. Sovereign was the one who was still waving the flag high during that area. And, but for me, the ultimate comeback and love letter, as Stinger knows, would be the Dreamcast. Mm-hmm. The Dreamcast was just such an emotional love letter to everything great about Sega. And shout out to Peter Moore, man. Shout out to those guys. Shout out, Yu Suzuki, when we saw Shenmue for the first time. It changed.
Oh my God.
It changed the game.
It was my God, it was so good, dude.
And I have a couple stories about that for B3 I'll share.
I'm almost done. But
no,
it's
no, keep going.
I could go on, man. It just, it just back to the Genesis too. Also with like graphical fidelity, the 6 mega cartridges, the 8 mega cartridges, the Striders, the Fantasy Stars. These are games. They had like every little genre. They had a game that was pretty good. So Sega will always hold a special place in my heart, man.
That's it. I'm getting choked up just hearing.
No, man. I can go on,
just
man.
choked up. But we gotta get now. Jago, I have learned over the last I'd say 4 or 5 months that I've gotten to know Jago from the chat room and just talking to him, that him and I share DNA.
He swears we're twins.
We gotta be. That's why. See, you don't need to be on camera. Just look at here, and you're probably seeing him.
Yep.
He is.
Yep.
Every time I said something, there's your Shinobi up there. Every time I said something, Sega, and he would be like, "Yep," and it would be just unbelievable. So, Jago, give us your Sega history, my friend.
Okay, I'm gonna do it like the Micro Machine guy. Start from the very first, take a console and go to the. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow!
Shout out to the Micro Machine guy. I agree with Lord Cognito. My very first console was the Atari, like a lot of the others were. And I knew that was something special there when it come to what I was doing, playing some kind of, playing Pong or Space Invaders. I was like, now this is my jam. I didn't really, as a kid I played outside, basketball, throwing the frisbee, football around, whatever. But when I got, saw video games, I was like, this is for me right here. Oh my God. And then, I think I bugged my mom and dad. I don't remember what it was. I think I was 11, and I was bugging my mom and dad, about a home console, and all my friends had an NES.
Same.
And ruin your eyes. But he came home and he's like, here, and guess what it was? The Sega Master with Hang On and Safari Hunt. What? It had the light gun in there. I was like, I don't know what this is. Oh my God. And then nobody cared. It was just as perfect to me. And that once I plugged the Master System, I was hooked. Hang On. I probably put, as kids you don't get like games like we got backlog. Back then you didn't have a backlog. You were lucky to get a game once every say 3, 4, 5, 6 months if you were lucky. I bet I put 1,000 hours on Hang On the Sega Master System, and that probably same amount on Safari Hunt. And then, as time goes on, and stupid me, I sold all my old consoles, which a lot of people did, and I wish I'd kept them. Shout out to Stinking Corpse. I wish he was here because he's got all those to this day. I moved to the Genesis, and it blew me away. I mean, you see Sonic the Hedgehog for the first time, you're like, what's Mario? What's Mario after this? Mm-hmm. Yep. I had, and like Lord Cognito said, Altered Beast, Golden Axe, they were so, at the time, and they were so close to the arcade ports. Afterburner, they weren't perfect, but you could see where the industry was going and how close we were getting. And I forgot more games than I remembered. All those 40 games on the Master System, I couldn't tell you what they were now. I forgot them, most of them. Then I had a Sega Genesis. Had I don't even remember, probably 30, 40 games for that too. Pit Fighter, shout out to Dirty J. He hates Pit Fighter.
Pit Fighter.
Yo.
The Street Fighters, the Mortal Kombat because it had the blood, of course.
Absolutely.
Space Harriers, all those. Kid Chameleons. I don't even remember if that was on the Sega Genesis, but I know I had it. And then the natural progression. My buddy, he had a Sega CD, and the first time I saw Night Trap, I was in love with Dana Plato.
Dana Plato.
Yes. And then I bugged my parents again to like help me because I was had was working or whatever, like little jobs here and there. So I was able to get a Sega CD and Night Trap, and good luck trying to find that game now because you won't find it. And if you do, you better pay a lot for it and keep it. Because that's one of those games they banned or something crazy.
Yeah. Well, they remade it. They remade it for the PS4, so you can get it for the PlayStation 4.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you can. They did a limited run on that.
Limited run, yeah. They got it for the Switch as well.
Holy crap! Well, I'm glad you went that because that's a game I never beat. Switching the cameras, trying to catch those, I guess they were like kind of like vampires or whatever. Yeah. And I would always switch the camera at the time the guys were taking the girls. I'm like, assholes! But that sewer shark.
Yeah.
Yes.
That, come on, dog meat! I'm gonna call you dog meat.
Shoot the tubes, dog meat.
Shoot the tubes. And then whatever his little robot buddy ghost or whatever. Yeah. I was like, oh my god. I was in love.
Sounds like you a little bit though.
Kind of.
Yeah. That good.
And then what was it? Dragon's Lair? Was it Dragon's Lair?
Dragon's Lair, Space
Ace.
Yeah,
Space Ace. I thought Sega City was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I was like, of course it's Sega that's doing this. Of course Sega brings it out. I really wasn't a 32X guy. I was a CD because I couldn't afford everything. So, and then my natural progression was Saturn. I got a Saturn with Panzer Dragoon, I had Virtual Fighter. I didn't spend long on the Saturn because, of course, not too long after that, with Sega's whole marketing and how they brought out the Saturn and it didn't sit well with people. Right. They came out with the Dreamcast, and I got the Dreamcast day one with can't even remember now. Power Stone.
Power Stone, yes.
Sonic. What was the Sonic game called?
Sonic Adventure.
Sonic Adventures. Yeah, Sonic Adventures. I had some kind of a fight. I don't remember what the fighting game was though, but it had music by Megadeth. I don't even remember what it was now. And I've said.
Was that a launch game?
Was it
no,
launch?
I don't think it was. I don't remember it being a launch game. But the bad thing about it is I had probably 30, 40 games for the Saturn, and I had that in the military. You bought it in the military at the PX and collected the games. And once I got out of the military, came back home, and at that time I had sold all my other systems, of course, over the years. And I said, I'm going to keep this one. And over the years, I'd put it up somewhere, and I went looking for it probably 3, 4, 5 years later, and the thing had disappeared. It was supposed to be, I don't know if I took it somewhere and left it somewhere, or my parents did something with it, but it was gone. And I was so mad because, with the VMUs with the Saturn controller, I was like, this is a console that you keep, and everybody says to this day that Saturn is one of the best consoles ever. And I don't have it. I'm supposed to, so I'm really freaking salty right now.
Hey, I wanted to give just a quick shout out to Retro Kicks Gaming who jumped in the chat. His name is Sean. He, back in the day, was my. Funny enough, it's coming to my Sega show. He was my Nintendo writer for NLGaming.com.
Nice.
Him and I spent we put a lot of miles in the Staples Center for E3 every year. That's a hell of a man right there that wrote for us for many years. So
awesome.
Yeah. So
I forgot one thing too. Did any of you guys ever have the 3D glasses for the Sega Master System?
Yes.
Did not.
Yes.
I had them. Yes.
I had those. And the first time. When you seen, I think it was Missile Command or something like, I don't remember the name of the game now. It's been so long ago, but the missiles would fly right into your eyeballs. It was so good.
You got to admit, they actually looked cool when you put them on.
Yes, they did look cool. I didn't have them.
I had it, man. I had it. Yes. Yes. Some games also had functionality with it too.
And that was in the 8-bit era. It just blows my mind to think about it now. How cool it was.
Yeah.
Salute.
No. Well, my story.
Oof. Get it.
Yes. Now I missed. So, as I was growing up, I was also in that Pong and Atari era. So, actually, I wasn't so much the Atari as I was the Intellivision. So, I was always kind of, the odd man out when it came to the game systems I like. And I went from that to a ColecoVision. And did not think anything of at that time. I really wasn't in tune with, the SG-1000, Sega's SG-1000 or the Master System. I just didn't know much about it. So when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out and the Genesis came out a couple years later, I was asking for the NES for Hanukkah. I really wanted the NES, like everybody else had. Everybody else had it. I wanted it. I really wanted it. My father brought home a Sega Genesis, and I remember. Well, I didn't think so at the time. I honestly, legit cried. I'm like, what is this? How could you do this to me? I wanted an NES. I wanted a Nintendo. What is this? What is this garbage you brought home? Now, I didn't say that to him because I'm not that.
That's how you felt.
I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this? It's like Eddie Murphy getting a hamburger from his mom. I was like,
he was getting a knockoff console from the side of the street.
Exactly. I'm like, what is this? Keep in mind, I had not, I still wasn't old enough to get out to the arcades myself or anything like that. Anytime I went to the arcades, so my parents took me to the mall and I snuck off to the arcade while they were shopping. So, my dad's like, well, this looks really good. Look at these games back here. I'm like, what is Altered Beast? What is this thing? So I fired up. I was like, all right, fine. I'll give it a try. I fired up Altered Beast. Now I had been playing Mario and that kind of stuff, so I'm used to like teeny tiny Mario this big, and so I turn it on and I hit start and I hear "Rise from your grave."
From your grave.
And I went,
yes.
My face went.
It melted right off.
I'm like, whoa! And I started to play the game, and there's, here's little Mario. Here's like 25-foot, whatever his name is. We don't even know his name. Kicking and punching, and then he turns into the wolf, and I'm like, okay.
Power up.
I was like, yeah, power up, right? And I'm like, my goodness! And that was the start. I was like, okay, Dad, I'm sorry. I apologize to him. I said, Dad, I just didn't know. And he said, well, you always listen to your father. And so, from that point on, I was just totally enamored with Sega. And I was getting like the offshoot games too, like Decap Attack, and Tasmania, which people don't understand how good and colorful those games were back then. We weren't in the color wars yet with the 64 and the 256 and all that. I played Tasmania and it looked like the cartoon. And it sounded like the cartoon. So there was this console made sounds that the Nintendo Entertainment System couldn't touch. To be honest with you, the Super NES to an extent couldn't touch either. Don't get me wrong, the Super NES had a really nice sound chip in it that did some of those orchestral sounds and things like that.
Yeah.
But no one rocked out like the Genesis. And no one could do those sampled sounds. Those perfect sampled sound effects like the Genesis. And I remember, you guys remember, since you talked about a game the fighting game with Megadeth, do you guys remember a game called Crew Ball?
Oh, it sounds familiar.
It was a pinball game that had all Motley Crue music behind it.
Wow.
Lord.
And that game, all you heard was, Dr. Feelgood and that stuff. And while you're playing, and it sounds, he did electric guitar like the Genesis. I mean, it just did. It just didn't.
Oh, yeah.
So, then I got into the sports games, of course, Tommy Lasorda baseball, Pat Riley basketball, and Buster Douglas.
Buster Douglas.
Yes. And so those games were just so tight. And then, we got to the Sonic era, and I'm like, this is incredible. Now, by that time, I was old enough to start to work for what was then Games and Gadgets. So now it's, now we know it as GameStop, but that trip from Games and Gadgets to Electronics Boutique to Walden Software to EB Games and GameStop, I was around for the launch of the SNES. I was working there, and I was there for the downright kick scream battles that Sega fans had with Nintendo fans when Street Fighter 2 came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then when Mortal Kombat came out.
Oh, that was the fatal blow, literally.
Yes, that was. What do you mean it was sweat? No.
Sweat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
their only comeback was, well, we had Street Fighter 2 until Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition came out.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was like, well, now we got both, punk. So what of it? So I was, just enamored with my Genesis. Like Genesis, I was that guy. Genesis does.
Yes.
What Nintendo. You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
Yo, they had the marketing on lots of things, because think about it. They had Pat Riley, Tommy Lasorda,
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana. They literally market. I hate to cut you, but like every single sport, they had an icon associated and labeled and marketed.
But
and it was, and that commercial was so well done. They don't get enough credit for that marketing.
No, they don't. But then they had the King of Kings, Michael Jackson.
I was going to say,
who loved Sega.
Forgive me.
Who loved Sega. I mean, he
was Sega fanboy.
He was very much so. He wanted to do Moonstalker so badly. And I mean, he did all the motion capture for and the whole 9 yards, and made sure that the music was exactly as it needed to be. I mean, that was one of the best games of that time. I mean, so easy. Moonwalk.
To have the King of Pop on the Sega Genesis really cemented what Sega meant when Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see that over there.
I was pop culture, Jago, at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the biggest icon in music co-signing your system.
Yes.
So, again, people don't realize, like I said, the marketing, the momentum, like, again, they took the lumps from the mass system, but they learned and they revamped and they came back with a vengeance on Nintendo. And at that time, like you said, Stinger, I mean, you had to pick a side. I mean, Nintendo was strong out there. We're not going to disregard them.
No,
but that Genesis momentum, you had, and then the graphical fidelity jump from the NES put them in such a position, man. I can't give them enough credit.
At the time, I mean, if you're looking at these screenshots, at the time, there was nothing on the NES that could do this.
No.
There just simply wasn't. So, Golden Axe, I mean, there's nothing that could do Golden Axe.
And let's be honest, as a kid, I was born in 77, so I'll be 42 this year. As a kid, with the internet not around like it is today, where you can get anything that's happens 10 minutes from now, it'll be on the internet. You could not get away from Sega marketing. It was everywhere on TV. It was in Sears Christmas wish books. It was in Sears. Any of the catalogs. It was hell. You drive by on the interstate with your mom and dad and see a Sega billboard.
Yep.
It was everywhere. Sega knew how to market.
Yes.
I love Xbox, but Xbox could take some cues on how to market.
Oh yeah.
They were aggressive, man. They were. It was a good time. It was a good time for sure.
So, Peter, what did it? I mean, overseas, because Genesis was also big in Europe. I mean, Sega had Europe pretty well locked down. What was going on over there with them that you skipped over it?
I don't know. I had a Commodore 64, and that was kind of my thing, and stuck with that for the longest time. And then, after that, I got a Atari Mega ST.
Okay.
And after that, I went PC.
All right. Okay. Hey, man,
so that's my story.
I can't, and he's sticking to it.
Sticking to it.
Hey, man, I can't begrudge him an Atari ST.
Mm-hmm. No, so, I mean, it had MIDI, and that was fantastic.
Yes, it did. We could do a. I'm all about an old computer roundtable at some point too.
Totally.
So, but those games just. They were transformative. And then, Nintendo came out with the SNES, and, sort of tried to pull some of that momentum back, and to an extent, they did, and Sega knew they had to do something, so then was born the Sega CD, which I don't think gets enough credit for what it did. It answered the bell for what the what the Super Nintendo could do. So Super Nintendo was all about that sprite scaling and rotation, F-Zero and stuff like
Mode
that.
7. Remember they had Mode 7?
Yep.
That was a big deal. That was a game changer. I remember that one.
That was. And so, the Sega CD took it a step further and did polygon scaling and stuff like that. Remember Sylpheed?
Sylpheed, oh yeah.
Which had such a great soundtrack. And,
oh my god, yeah.
That is what drew me probably more. Like yes, the full motion video was really cool. I had and I still have, so it's not even had. I have Cobra Command. Remember the cartoon Cobra Command one?
Yes.
Yep.
I bring it over here. Not yet. I have Sewer Shark. I've got Ground Zero Texas. Supreme Warrior is another one. Was it Midnight? No, Midnight Raiders was. Yep, Midnight Raiders. I'm trying to look across to my. Tomcat Alley, which was
Tomcat Alley. Yeah.
Yep. So those were pretty cool and they were innovative. But what really drew me was the music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, next level.
Next level indeed.
I mean, for instance, like the Amazing Spider-Man versus Kingpin, that was an amazing thing, and that came out across like everything, if I recall. I think that was even on SNES. I know it was definitely on Genesis. And take the graphics and the frame rate out of it. I mean, those obviously were superior on the CD, but we're talking about the Megadeth backgrounds and stuff. Listen to the soundtrack on that game. I mean, I could just pop that CD in like a CD player and listen to it. You know what I mean? The soundtrack on that was just heart pumping.
Yeah, but but when it came to those high quality, Swing Time was like was the big track for Spider-Man versus Kingpin.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of powerhouse guys that wrote music for the Sega CD, and Retro Kicks Gaming he's alluding to it. Spencer Nielsen. Pioneered this to me, and in my opinion, he was. I mean, if you think about Sonic CD, right? So Sonic CD, if you have the Japanese import version, and if you get it on the Xbox 360 or the PS3, there's you could play either soundtrack. The Japanese soundtrack, the US soundtrack are completely different. They brought Spencer in to rewrite the US soundtrack, and he wrote this song called Sonic Boom, and had these ladies sing that song, and it's catchy as Retro say. It's catchy as hell, and you find yourself singing it. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom.
Yes.
And he did the Batman Returns. And that game, for example, took the cartridge version, which was just a 2D platformer, put that music to it, and put those really slick driving sequences that that Sega knew the Super Nintendo couldn't do.
Right.
And just stuff like that. Chuck Rock that had even that kind of stuff that had a little. And then Terminator. They got Tommy Tallarico, who is still out there, kicking ass in the music scene. Terminator and Earthworm Jim. Those were just insane. When Mortal Kombat came out on the Sega CD, and they brought the music, the music from the movie, and that kind of stuff, and just things like that just drew me into that. And I remember I still have it, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, which is again a different game from the cartridge version. The game itself, it's just a driving game. It's not terribly great. But because it was on CD, because Sega was doing the full motion video at the time, it's got a lost episode of Adventures of Batman and Robin on it. that you didn't see on TV. So I mean, these.
Not that nice.
It was so good. I had a 32X. Actually, where did I put it? It's somewhere around here. I have a 32X. I don't have the Genesis to put it on at the moment, but I have a 32X, and I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 games for it. You know, it was okay. It didn't blow me away like I thought it would. You know,
best for Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2.
Yep.
You know, it had a pretty decent Spider-Man, Web of Fire.
Web of Fire,
It did have a great golf game. That Jack Nicklaus 36 holes. I think it was Jack Nicklaus 36.
Yeah.
Whichever one was the 36 holes. I can't see it from here because I'm getting old. It had a great version of Afterburner. Great version of Space Harrier. It had a pretty decent version of Star Wars Arcade. But yeah, it didn't really, and they screwed that up kind of in the, you know, they had something going, and then they decided to talk about the Saturn, and that kind of ruined that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great while it lasted. You know, Cog, you said you didn't have it, but Mike, you did.
Yeah, 32X, I loved it. I mean, you know, part of me was attached to it because, you know, it was a lot of money. And for me, when I was younger, that was, you know, when I spend money on something, I want to stick behind it. So you know, a lot of the games that came out on, you know, and this was kind of its downfall too, that would come out on Genesis, would come out on 32X, and, you know, it'd be a better version. But, you know, there wasn't like a huge diversity in the catalog, and I think that's really what killed it, along with the whole Saturn controversy, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But you know, there were games on the 32X that I really believe were the best versions of the games. I mean, you already said some of them. Mortal Kombat 2, I mean, put that up against even the Saturn and the PlayStation versions. I'll play the 32X version any day. I honestly think it's the best. And then, you know, it tried to dive a little bit into the 3D fighting. You know, it had Virtua Fighter, it had you know, Virtual Racing, you know. So those games were kind of introduced, and those were, you know, revolutionary at the time, but did it justify, you know, $150 add-on? Right. You know, when you know, brand new systems were coming out, and, you know, $299, or, you know, even 64, $199. You know, it just didn't have a fighting chance when it was an add-on. You know, it was an accessory. It wasn't viewed as its own thing. Yeah. And you know, I mean, it had some really good versions of games, but when it comes to its own distinct identity, I think it just didn't have it. You know, it was just too watered down. So, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought, you know, for like what I said, those versions of the games are great, but if I were to go back in time, probably wouldn't have bought it or stuck with it, obviously. But
well, you can tell too if you ever watched any of the documentaries on YouTube about the 32X, and there've been a couple. And Digital Foundry actually did a really good one where they played every single 32X game was out there, and they were showing you how the funniest one though was Angry Video Game Nerd when he did his you know, his trashing of it as he does, but he you know, if you didn't plug the cable for the 32X into the Genesis, you got half the picture. Because well, because you didn't realize that, Cog?
No.
Okay, so
yeah. So, like, the backgrounds were gone. Like, the game would be there, but the backgrounds were black.
Stop it.
No.
Yes.
So it used the Genesis to render part of the picture that it didn't think it needed to do in 3D or anything special.
I remember that. Yeah,
and the 32X did other things. So, like, I think it was like Primal Rage for the 32X. The backgrounds were there, but if you didn't plug the cable into the 32X, you didn't see the characters.
You know, the sprites were on, or like Knuckles Chaotix.
Wow.
Same kind of thing.
The skirt was lifted. Oh, man.
Yeah, they cheated big time. They cheated big time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some games use the whole thing. Some games use the, you know, like Star Wars Arcade, but some did not. And what's funny is that it had the same chipset as what would go into the Saturn later on. So you thought, you know, here is powerhouse of a little box here, and no. By the way, I meant to go back. There was one other game that I just caught my eye on my Sega CD shelf that I don't know if you guys remember. Like the version of Final Fight.
Yes.
Oh, the best one, yeah.
Best
Yes.
Best
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
Best
That
music
was by far the best one.
and
Yeah.
the cheesiest voice acting I have ever heard in a game.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You know?
He. We used to laugh at that like for years. Mr. Hagar.
Hey.
What?
Yeah.
Who is this? Don't hang up. We have some business to this game.
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't even have to play it. I remember it so well.
Oh,
So,
Do you have the cardboard box version, Mollis?
I
Or
have
do
the
you have...
cardboard. Yeah, it's the cardboard
Okay.
box version.
Nice.
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 I also have the
What's up,
cardboard box version of Hook, which I
Oh,
also
yeah.
bought.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So, and because Sony, so at the time, remember, there was no PlayStation. Sony
Right.
was actually making games, Sony ImageSoft.
Yes.
So Hook,
Yeah.
Hook, it was easy for them to put Hook on the Sega CD and to bring, like Hook and Cliffhanger. Remember Cliffhanger, which is the Stallone movie?
Slow movie, yeah.
Oh God, yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
they were able to bring over like little video clips of the movie and the whole and the actual soundtrack.
That's still one of my favorite games to this day is Demolition Man.
Wow, my man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Who didn't want to be Sylvester Stallone and be in that movie? Demolition
know.
Man was awesome, dude. Come on, Wesley Snipes.
I know.
Thanks, yeah.
I'm gonna go down
Absolutely.
there. Yeah, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna put him in a hurt locker. That's one of my favorite. One of my favorite lines. It's just hilarious.
Yes.
So
Classic.
So we get through the 32X, and like I'm still not anywhere near a Nintendo system at this point. Like it didn't matter. I was all about the Sega Saturn, and I remember, at this time, is when I really started also to get into the import scene a little bit. So I was like, can I wait? Because the Saturn and at that time, all the new consoles would come out in Japan 6 to 9 months before
ahead
it
of
came
time.
out
Before
in the
we got them.
US.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't really wait. So I got an import Saturn. I got a couple of games for it, and I couldn't understand a damn one of them. I had Fire Pro Wrestling, right?
Nice.
I had to print out you remember how we used to do this, boys? We used to print out the manual and put it in a binder and get the 3-hole punch out so we could learn all the moves and figure out how to at least rename our characters so that we could make Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and all those guys. I mean, I had that was where I got like Radiant Silver Gun and Sky Target, like really good shmups. And I did have a version of Virtual Fighter for it. So then the US version came out, and this was where you got that, you had Master System sort of rising up. The Genesis really shot them up.
Yep.
The Sega CD was successful, believe it or not. From a sales perspective, the Sega CD did not flop. Nowadays, 50 million consoles is where you need to be, or else you're a failure. I think they had sold 7 or 8 million Sega CDs, which at the time, in this niche video game market that was really
That was
dominated,
phenomenal
that was
at the
great.
time.
So, the 32X kind of plateaued, and then Sega lost their minds. And I was still working at EB at the time.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
we're watching E3 or the summer CES show or whatever it was.
I
at
know
the
where
time.
you're going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And walks out on stage and says, "Hey, the Saturn's available right now for $3.99." And people clapped, like people were excited.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who weren't excited were the developers that were making games for it. Because half the games that were supposed to be out in the fall when the system
Ready.
launched, weren't ready.
Mm-mm.
So that lineup, I don't totally remember the launch lineup, but I think like Clockwork Knight was part of that launch lineup.
It was.
Virtual Fighter
Yep.
was part of that launch lineup. The bad version.
Yes, the bad version.
The bad version.
Very bad.
Virtual Racing, was that part of the launch lineup?
I think so.
Which was not developed by Sega, by the way. That version was not made by Sega. It was made by Time Warner. And I got it. I mean, I had to have it. So, and I was enjoying it. I was like, hey, this is pretty good. I still hadn't touched a Nintendo or a PlayStation at this point.
Wow.
I got to give you credit. You held strong, bro. I don't even know if I had that type of willpower.
My first Nintendo console, and Sean used to laugh at me because I was totally, he was the Nintendo guy and I was a Sega guy. It was funny. Daytona USA, was that launch?
USA.
Also, the bad version of Daytona
version,
Hey, it was still phenomenal when you put it in and played it though. You didn't have to go to the arcade.
It was
the pop in. All of a sudden, you'd have a left turn out of nowhere. You crash into the wall.
The pop in was horrible. That whole mountain would just there it is.
There was like Clockwork Knight, Daytona, Panzer.
Panzer Dragoon. Yeah, Panzer Dragoon was good though.
That game was awesome. Yeah. Game over. Yeah, that's what. I was still strong. Astal, that was a launch title, and that looked beautiful. Two-dimensional game, platformer, right up my alley. Gorgeous graphics, beautiful soundtrack, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this is Sega. I wasn't really at the time. I'm not sure I understood the ramifications of them bringing it out early, until I walked into KB Toy and Hobby.
KB Toy specifically.
Yeah.
Wow. Were they upset?
They refused to sell it. Period. Outright. They refused to sell it. That hurt them.
Big time.
And then the games just never really materialized. And then the other shoot it dropped was that infamous. So now we were getting to E3, and Sony, whoever the president of Sony of America at the time, walks up.
Yeah, that was slick.
Mic drop.
$2.99 and just walked away.
Mic drop.
And that was it.
Yeah, it was.
That was it. That was it. Yeah, $2.99. That's all he needed to say.
Yeah, I held on. I have the. I don't know if you could see it back there on the wall. I have the NetLink. The NetLink was so and this was what Sega did. Sega innovated.
Yes, they did.
We talk about. This innovates, Sony innovates, and Nintendo innovates. Nobody innovated like Sega did at the time.
No, facts. Nobody.
I want to go back a bit too. Sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sting. Was the power-based converter for the Genesis that allowed you to play the Master System games, was that the first kind of iteration of backward compatibility?
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
Because I remember having that and saying, man, I thought I'd lose all my Sega Master System library. Yeah. And I could put those cartridges right on time. We probably Bill Stellar's in the chat. Maybe he would know.
Yeah, but I never had one, but I remember that.
I mean,
the only other adapter that was ever out there was not technically a backward compatible adapter. The ColecoVision had an adapter that went on the front of it that played Atari 2600 games.
The expansion module or something. Right?
Yes, the expansion module number one.
Yes, it was number one. That was Coleco.
Because you know what number two was, right?
What was number two?
The turbo wheel.
Ooh.
Remember turbo?
Wow.
That was the first wheel I'd ever seen.
Yes, that was correct. That also went in that expansion module, right? That went in that part?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Atari, Retro's saying Atari did it with the 5200.
You
know what else was directly backward compatible. 7800 was totally backward compatible.
It was backward compatible. I remember that. But I want to give them credit because it's like, it may have not been the first, but at the end of the day, like, again, as a kid, having that Master System, right? and having all those titles. I had so many titles, and then they also had the Sega card. They had two forms of media.
The cartridges,
Yeah,
yes.
and the card.
So it's like when the Genesis came out, and to say, okay, you know what, you were loyal, so like we're not gonna leave you behind, so to speak, and you just buy this little adapter. It was big though. It was like a little Darth Vader helmet that you snapped on top.
Yes.
The thing was big, man. But you flipped it up, you put your cartridge in, you put your, and everything worked fine, man. And the other thing I thought was also nostalgic was with the Master System was, remember they are like one of the few consoles that had like a built-in game inside if there was no in it. Remember
That's
that?
how my Hang On and my Safari Hunt was. I didn't get no cartridge with it. I'm like, what is this? Where's the games?
Yeah, man. They had that little maze game. It was like a maze game for the masses. I'll never forget that game. They innovated some stuff.
They did. We did kind of gloss over when we were talking about the Genesis. We did kind of gloss over the activator.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
And the light gun. Now, the light gun was pretty good, actually. Remember the Toe Jam and Earl type game, the Ray Aim Tomatoes?
Yes.
Yeah.
The light gun was actually better than the Nintendo light gun. I mean, it really was. Once again, it was something better.
The Master System light gun was better than the NES light gun.
What was that gun called? What was that called?
Talking about the Menacer one?
The Menacer. There it is.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Menacer. So, oh, and remember the Genesis had the Genesis and the Sega CD had damn near arcade perfect ports of Lethal Enforcers.
Lethal Enforcers.
Yeah.
With the two guns. With the two guns.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Sting, we not gonna forget the Nomad, y'all.
The Nomad.
Remember the Nomad?
Oh, yeah.
Was
Oh, Nomad.
The
Genesis.
Nomad.
You got the 6 buttons. You literally can pop and play your cartridge right inside,
Yep.
and it was straight. It was a straight port. It was nothing you lost. That was a big one, man, because I think that was like almost like a direct competitor to the TurboGrafx Express, which also kind of did the same thing. And that one was great, but the battery life was kind of bad.
I was going to say, the only thing about the Nomad was the battery life was horrendous.
It was horrendous. But the fact that you took your Genesis on the go, man.
Yes.
That was cool.
Yeah. And look.
And the video out, too, right?
The video out, put it to yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
And give them credit for the Game Gear too, man. I mean, there were some
The Game Gear
fantastic
was phenomenal
Game
back
Gear
in the
games.
day.
Sonic on the Game Gear looked so close to Sonic on the Genesis.
It did. It did.
Really,
It looked almost exactly like the Genesis port.
And once again, those commercials, they got the zombie kids playing the Game Boy and in drab colors, and the one kid opens the door and gets hit with this like color scheme of the Game Gear. It was crazy. Man.
Oh man, they used to take shots, man. Sega would take their shots.
Sega, yes. Sega didn't give a shit. They would take a shot and they wouldn't worry about where it landed.
Yep.
And piss anybody off.
But it galvanized the base, right? As a Sega kid, you were galvanized. You got to talk to your Nintendo fanboy friends and say, okay, what now? We got the blood in our Mortal Kombat.
Right.
What now?
Yeah,
we
what
got
you got?
Like Rocket Man sweat over there.
If you want to talk about the little Genesis fanboy wars, it was that like there you go, man. We have that.
What was the commercial? I don't know because I didn't look it up. I never have to. I think it was a black guy in some kind of like gray paint. He's like almost like a teen. You remember those?
Oh, I thought that was awful. That market, it was so like not awkward, but it was so different. It was kind of like they had like a baby.
It
like,
was so in your face.
Oh man,
it was kind of awkward though, right?
It was awkward. Yeah.
It didn't have the white chick at the end with the Saturn thing around her head.
Oh my goodness, yeah. She was like albino and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like her eyes were all bugged out, and I was like, all right, well, how about that?
Yeah.
I was like, Sega does not give a shit. They're not worried about hurting feelings. They are trying to win the console race.
You guys remember in Japan, they had Sega Sanshiro, the guy, the forgot what he was, like a Hapkido guy. He always came around and He always came around and was beating people up to that weren't Sega guys. And you'd see him like pounding on the controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was big, man. It was big. But we got to talk about the turnaround, man.
Yes.
We got to talk about that magical system in white.
And then it happened.
Come on, man. Let's get to it.
Then it happened.
Woo!
Let's talk about our revival, our reunion. That was epic, man.
Hang on, I'm gonna get it started. I'm gonna go grab it because I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I want people to see it and talk about it. I'm gonna be
You
right back.
Get it
started.
idea.
Get it started.
I get it started, man. Listen, I mean, for me personally, I know Inferno, you were still rocking hard. You doing your 32X. You do, and I gotta be honest. My faith was broken, brothers. I was going through. I picked up probably like a Super NES towards that end. I had a turbo. Sega love was there, but I just wasn't all the way on board. When the 32X and the Saturn eras kind of happened. Mm-hmm. So you hear the rumblings. You know what I'm saying of a Dreamcast or what have you, and you hear them coming back, and you remember that young Peter Moore before the the LFC days before he's buying sports teams. Man was out there, man. He was out there, and I'll never forget. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah. I see the legendary. And
it's one of the best consoles of all time right there.
The best console launch lineup of all time that has not been duplicated
replicated. Nope.
Has not been replicated.
I have to give it up to you, Sting. You did correct me when you showed me that launch lineup. And, but forget about, the fact, like I said, you had the graphical fidelity. You had the strong launch titles. You had so much innovation. Yeah, what is it? The VMU.
The VMU inside the controller.
Absolutely. The addition of the modem, for Sega Online and that stuff to really kind of pioneer that stuff. And then let's keep it like that. The power. It's like arcade perfect Soul Calibur port.
They were.
Oh my! Like the NFL 2K series debut, just the graphical. I mean, mind-dropping graphics, and they were aggressive. And you had Peter Moore behind the helm. They weren't playing no games, man.
No,
they were very strong out the gate. Dreamcast holds a special place for me.
I remember. It was the year it was launching. So I had been to E3 98 and 99. I was starting to work for Sega got me. Sega got me, and Sean will tell you, Sega got me where I am right now. That next level gaming wouldn't exist without Sega, because I was selling pianos in a shop, spending 8 to 10 hours a day by myself. Because you sell pianos, that's not exactly an impulse buy.
Yeah.
So, so I would bring my Saturn in, and I would play Sega Rally all day long.
Nice.
And I would just, and so we had a 56K modem in the store. So I'd get on, IRC chat channels and stuff like that. And some guy found me and said, "Hey, we're building this site for the new Sega console. And you're heavy into Sega. Do you think you might want to do some writing for us?" I'm like, "I've never done it before, but I'll give it a try." So we started writing stuff for what we thought was going to come with the Dreamcast. The arcade boards were out and doing the stuff in the arcade, and so somehow we were able to get passes to go to E3. So I went to E3 98. I met a couple people. This was right before Peter Moore. And then I started to talk to them and talk to their PR. And pretty soon, we were kind of on their list. We were starting to get press releases, and as information was trickling out about the system that they were giving out to press. At the time, there was no social media, so you really did get everything you needed from the press. I started to kind of get into it. And 1999 came, and I will never forget this. I'm walking through Sega's booth, And up on the screen, I've told this story before, and I'm not sure if I told this on Ironlords or not. I might have.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yes, you did. I remember this
All
story.
right. So for those who hadn't heard it yet, I'm walking through the booth, and up on the screen, they're showing highlights of games and stuff like that. And I walk over. I got a meeting with my Sega rep, and NFL 2K comes on. The first NFL 2K. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, all we knew at the time was Madden, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just casually looking up, just casually looking at the board, like, yeah, okay. The wide receiver is running down the field, and you see him running down the field. I'm like, it kind of looks like what a Madden game would be. And he turned his head to look for the ball.
What?
And I turned around, and I froze. And I just stared at the screen. And I was like, what?
What just happened?
What did I just see? And I mean, this was 1999. This isn't, now where we expect that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just froze, and I must have watched that screen for another 20 minutes and missed part of my my meeting. If I got up there and he said, "Hey man, what happened?" I said, "Your damn football game happened." And he just laughed. Nice. And I told him what I saw, and he said, "That's our new development studio, Visual Concepts."
Visual Concepts, yes.
Visual Concepts, yeah.
Yes.
So I knew this stuff was coming. I just didn't understand the magnitude of it. It really was. The reason I brought the system over is because I did a video on this last year when I got my first VGA to HDMI connector, and I wanted to do some game work. But I ended up, instead of talking about the connector, ended up doing like a 20-minute retro on the system. People don't understand exactly, again, how innovative Sega was.
They were.
I mean, first console to have 4 controller ports.
Yes. I forgot about that. Wow. Yeah.
The GameCube eventually did it.
You're correct.
You're correct. And
wait a second. The N64 didn't have 4 controller ports.
No, I think it had 2.
No, wait, no, 64. I thought the 64. Yeah, you may be right though. 64, I think, did have 4.
Did it?
That's right in your brain, Mullis.
Yeah, I think 64 maybe right.
No,
go with the dream.
I think Inferno was right. Yeah, they had 4.
Did it because 64 had the wrestling games, and I used to go crazy for those wrestling games. Yeah, they did. But look, it was still innovative.
All right, go on, Mullis. I'm sorry.
That's all right. They were the same show. Yeah. You're supposed to just nod your head.
We had revisionist history. Let us live.
No, you're right.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
Damn it, Inferno for being right.
Oh man, I feel awful.
I forgot about that too myself.
That's all right. When the N64 came out, that was actually my first Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, all right. So fine.
But there's plenty else to talk about innovation-wise. There's plenty else to talk about. Let's go on.
There's plenty else to talk about. How about that modem? Now, the Saturn had the modem. Yeah. The Saturn had the modem, but the Dreamcast had the modular piece that then, is this the modem or is this my... Now, this is the broadband adapter.
Broadband adapter. Oh, my goodness.
Before the Xbox put it in the box, Sega had it on the box. Now, it was Japanese, so I had to get it. I had to get it from Japan because I don't think it came out here. I can't remember, but I did have to get it imported at the time. So, all right,
okay,
Jeff.
It did come out here.
We got it, Jeff. Inferno got me. It's all right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then the VGA output. So you can hook this thing up.
Yes.
So you can hook this thing up to a monitor or a TV that had VGA, which mine did at the time. I had an RCA 4x3 HD TV.
Say RCA right now. People are like, what's RCA?
Yeah, I know. What's an RCA? What's an RCA?
Jago.
Hey, say Zenith. That'll trip them up just as much.
Wait, Wait a minute, hang on.
S is part of the drink.
CE, baby.
Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. We're still having some slight technical issues here, and I don't know why. This is driving me crazy. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just saying about that Windows OS. I remember it being incorporated.
So there were two types. So when the import came out, Microsoft had allowed Sega to put designed for Windows CE on it.
Yes,
I remember that.
So Sega decided that while it was great to have some games that ran Windows, and when some of the games that you put in, when the Sega logo came up, it said Windows CE, but they also did want to develop and continue to develop their own proprietary software. So when the US version came out, and I don't know if you can see it or not, the US version says compatible with Windows CE. So that's a change in the box.
Gotcha.
Oh.
That's the one I had. I never had the Japanese one.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm pretty sure the N64 didn't have VGA.
No, it did not.
Not even close. Not even close.
So,
Nice.
so the Giga discs at the time were pretty. They were trying to, get that more storage without going to DVD, which was one of the things that some people claim is one of the mistakes they made. I think at the time, the issue that Sega had was, for a lot of the hardcore enthusiasts like us, this was as you said, man, it was the love letter. It was the apology.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
This was we screwed up, we knew it.
Yes.
We were gonna throw power at you. This thing was gonna run 3D like nobody's business.
Absolutely.
And
that was the issue. The 3D war was the issue for me personally, because that was the evolution when we saw gaming going at one point. And no disrespect to the Saturn. The Saturn was 2D bliss, but it was just like 3D was this new shiny thing, and you just wanted Sega to, to show. And then it gave us that power, and they gave us, the games like the Soul Calibers and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
The Sega CD and the Sega 32X felt like two disjointed ideas that it confused consumers.
That's exactly
and the Dreamcast felt like a return to old school Sega.
Yeah.
One vision. This is power. We're sorry we confused all y'all with our marketing, but this is us back in rare form right now.
I agree completely, Jerry.
I do too. I think that's exactly it. And I think that the problem came that by that time, Bernie Stolar had really kind of put the screws to everybody, and to an extent, because remember, Bernie Stolar also pissed off Working Designs and EA. Like there was an article. So do you guys remember Next Generation magazine?
Yes.
Yes.
I remember. And I can't remember his name. It was a kind of a long name. EA's president at the time. The magazines had that first page, like little op-ed. It was typically from the editor in chief.
Yep.
This one was from the president of EA, and he said flat out he would do whatever he had to do to destroy Sega. So that's why you saw Madden move to the PlayStation. Sony made the move on Tomb Raider.
Yes.
Remember the first Tomb Raider? The first Tomb Raider was on the PC and the Saturn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Saturn. I didn't play it, but I knew it was on Saturn. I had it for the Saturn.
Yep. Saturn and PC. And
Lara Croft and her pointy boobs and all.
That's right. And Sony bought the rights to that. They didn't have to buy anything from EA. EA was EA was put out too by the fact that they wanted to be kind of the de facto sports, and honestly, Visual Concepts made better products.
Absolutely.
To this day, this is why EA doesn't. EA kind of haphazardly throws out an NBA Live every once in a while because they know they know that Visual Concepts now as their 2K gaming. 2K Sports, but they know that Visual Concepts is the king, and ain't nothing there's nothing they can do about it. So it's okay. It's perfectly okay. But that made made EA mad. That's not Sega's fault.
No.
But I also remember that year, that 1999 year. You know, Peter Moore. I always talk about Peter Moore. He is and will always be my favorite executive.
Salute.
I don't look. I don't. I'm not that kind of guy that marks out in front of movie stars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen them before. I've walked by them. You know, I've been in a restaurant when WWF wrestlers and WCW wrestlers were at the table next to me, and you know, I'd look over and I'd say, "Hi, hey, great show, thanks a lot," but I wouldn't like go mob them and get their autograph and stuff because you know I'm not that guy. I don't do that with game execs either. Like I've talked to Phil Spencer, I've had DM conversation with him. I've been at a party with him once, and I don't go, "Oh my God, I've been playing with Phil Spencer." You know, no disrespect to him. No disrespect to him. No disrespect to him, and I'm not throwing shade.
Yeah, no shade, shade.
But it doesn't, you know. I have as much respect playing with Peter and Coop and you guys, and you know, they're just gamers like we are. They just happen to head the company. You know, I don't. People don't mark out for the CEO of my company. You know, it just doesn't happen. But Peter Moore was always my exception.
Yeah, Peter
and the reason is because he was so much more personable than anybody else at the time.
Agreed.
My first experience with him was 1999. That night, first night of E3 was usually a decent party somewhere. Sega's was in this warehouse.
Hold on. Bill Stewart said he's going to tell Phil Monday about what
So, no disrespect.
We love Phil, but we love
No. I'm not saying that I don't. And you know what? If I jumped in a party with Phil, I would game with him. But I just don't. I don't feel like I have to like I'm not kissing the ring, you know. I would shake his hand, tell him he's doing a great job, talk to him like you know, but I would talk to him like a gamer and a human being because
exactly.
You know, and that's
normal
what he.
Person.
And come on, let's be perfectly honest. He's that guy too. He's not holding his arm out for you to kiss the ring.
Oh no,
he's not. He's not. He is very. I have a lot of respect for that. But Peter and Sean can back this up because I think Sean came after NL Gaming started. But here I've told him this story too. They're up there. They've got these steel girders and stuff that they built in this warehouse. They got basketball players up playing NBA 2K, and he's up on this girder holding on with a microphone, and he's. Yes. I don't know if he might have had one or two. I don't know, but he's up there and he says, "Thank you everybody for coming. You know, this is going to be a great year for Sega, and we are going to kick Nintendo's ass or Sony's ass. We're going to kick Sony's ass." You know, and he's at the top of his lungs. So I got a chance to talk to him then, and then when he went over to, when the Dreamcast died and Sega went third party. Which is the next chapter we got to talk about.
Absolutely, let's get it.
He moved over to Microsoft.
Microsoft, yeah.
So at that time, we were and he's right. Peter Moore was influential in my getting the groundwork for NLG because he moved over to Microsoft, and we had to make a decision. I had to make a decision when the Dreamcast died and Sega went third party. Was I just going to give up what I was doing?
Stop saying Dreamcast
died. I know.
I know, right?
I was deep into Dreamcast HQ. I was writing. I was I still have our system disc that Sega gave us.
Wow.
I have one of the only remaining copies and I should have pulled it out, and I can in a few minutes if you want, of a Dreamcast game from Bethesda Softworks, when it was Bethesda.
Wow.
And it was given to me by, what's his name? Holy crap. That's okay, he doesn't follow me on Twitter. No, what's his name? He's still there. He's the one, he's the host of the E3 shows.
Wait, you mean Todd Howard?
No. Not Todd. The PR manager.
The PR guy, what's his name? I know you talk about.
Oh,
I can see the face, and I'm
starts with a P. So anyway,
You're not talking about Pete Hines, are you?
Pete Hines.
Hines.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they're in my state, so I know. So I met Pete. He gave me a preview copy of PBA Bowling.
Wow.
It was the only bowling game they ever made. It was a preview copy. It never came out. Never came out to retail because by that time the Dreamcast had gone. So took the dirt nap, Jago. So I still have it. I have a preview copy of South Park Racing. So I still have some of this stuff. It's really neat.
Wow.
Sega also gave
Feel free to send that my way, by the way.
The Dreamcast was also my very first box quote. On the back of Test Drive V Rally. On the back of Test Drive V Rally, that quote from Dreamcast HQ is mine. Nice. It's the definitive rally racer for the Sega Dreamcast. And it was because it was the first rally racer I had ever seen that had track editor on it. Mm-hmm. That wasn't... Yeah. Yep. So anyway, so I had to make this decision. Was I going to just kind of give that up? Or did I want to do something with it? I had this experience, and I kind of like going to E3. So I got together with Sean, and I got together with this guy, Chris, and we created Next Level Gaming in 2001. And what was cool about that was Peter was bringing Sega he was dragging them over to Microsoft, too, because Full Auto and Condemned and that kind of thing. So Peter would talk to me at E3 even if he didn't have to, and I thought that was the coolest thing. So as I started to get in more with the multi-platform stuff, Microsoft really gave me my first break in that. And my good friend Arnie Meyer, who is currently and I want to give him a great shout out, he's currently the PR manager for Naughty Dog, but back then he was the PR manager for Xbox. They didn't have community managers. We were legit press. We were like you've got going on right now, Cog, with the Ironlords website, which is fantastic, by the way. Yes. And that's how you guys have got your press, credentials. So that's how we got our press credentials. Nice. There wasn't a year that I stopped. I didn't have meetings with Peter. Peter was, higher up. He didn't meet with the press. I had Arnie and I had some other guys that I met with. But there was not a year when I was up in that booth that Peter, if he walked by and he saw me, stopped for a minute, shook my hand, said, "Mike, how you doing? How's your family?" He knew I had at that time I just started growing my family. I had how's the family? That's good. He would talk to me for a couple of minutes. He'd say, "Hey, Mike, I gotta run," but he would stop. When the 360 came out, myself and a writer for NLG, Dan Comer, we went up to New York for an event, and that's also how I got my Xbox 360 debug kit, which did preview code for Xbox 360. Nice. And Peter was there, and Shane Kim was there, the current then head of Microsoft Game Studios. I had no idea who Phil Spencer was at that point. But I had dinner with Peter that night. I mean, that's Peter Moore holds a special place in my heart for not just the Microsoft, but for the Sega. So I think we got off track, but
no. I'm glad.
No. Because I'm enjoying listening to this.
Yeah, I felt the same way, and I mean, I think obviously we got to talk about the good. We talk about towards the end, but I also make.
We are Facebook friends, by the way.
Nice.
Yes, we are Facebook friends. Peter and I.
It's real now. It's real now.
Oh, and I will tell you, he will confirm this. The GTA 4 tattoo, totally fake.
Oh, okay. So
the Halo tattoo, is 100% real.
Wow.
I was gonna say real.
100%.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that.
It's why he does it, and you notice sometimes. When he was on like with Ryan Caffrey, those guys, he wouldn't roll his sleeve up. It is real.
But you got to respect the passion, right?
Yep.
You got to respect it. And the thing for me is, again, towards the end of the Sega run, and like I said, you remember Peter Moore and how aggressive he was with the Dreamcast, and then it makes the logical bridge, right, between Sega kids and then Xbox, right?
Because
that was the transition. You started to see those Sega franchises come on. He helped bridge that. And one of, like you mentioned, that episode, shout out to Ryan McCaffrey. That was an amazing episode where it had all the three Xbox heads, you know, Sean, Seamus Blackley, they had, you know, Peter, and of course, Phil. And what was great about it was when you're talking to Peter about his mindset during the Sega days, and he's like, look, we just lost to those guys. So me coming on board, we was like, I wanted to defeat them. Like I wanted, with just that aggressiveness with 360 that you've seen that he learned from the Sega era, and he was just like, you know, we're gonna put the boot down to them, the exclusives, the, you know, whatever that's how passionate he was, and I think that's why he's so beloved, right? You know what I'm saying?
Hurt my baby.
Yeah, they hurt his baby. You know,
they hurt my baby.
I mean, he's out there with Liverpool now, like you know what I'm saying? And it's
turning them around.
Turning them around.
You know,
where did he go that he didn't turn things around? When he came to Sega, that was after the Saturn, Bernie Stolar. Bernie Stolar not only burned bridges with the consumers, he burned bridges with the developers. You remember Working Designs?
Yeah.
So if you guys ever did the IRC chat stuff or the Unet forums, so back before we had forums, you had like this UUNet thing, and it was like messages, so it was like a forum. Dude, Victor Ireland used to go on those things, and he used to go nuts on Bernie Stolar. Just called him everything but a child of God. I'm not kidding. Because I mean, you know, remember Lunar and Grandia. I mean, what Working Designs did was took all the Game Arts games from Japan and localized them for the Sega CD, and then localized them for the Saturn. You know, to this day, if you find a copy of Magic Radite Earth, or what is it called, Ray Earth. I'm sorry, Magic Knight Ray Earth. If you can find a copy of that with the red label on it, it's worth like $300 or $400.
Wow.
It's a copy of Snatcher for the Sega CD is about $800. So yeah,
classic.
So you know, Bernie was not good for the brand, and Peter had to come in, and you know, look, it was too late. It really was. As much as we love this console, and as much as this console put up the fight of its life, and gave us over 100 phenomenal games, it was too late. The Saturn, you know, and what Peter did to get them where they were was nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
The confusion that Sega did to the, you know, with all the Saturn and the 32X and the competition from other people, the PlayStation and everything that was going on at the time, it was a bad time for Sega to mix the marketing or have the wrong try to like. Sega of America and Sega of Japan to try to fight each other on what they wanted to do, and people got tired of it, and they just screw it. And people always move on to the newest thing. Yeah. And PlayStation knew that Sega was kind of, they were confused with what they were trying to do, and they stepped in the door and they took part of the market share, and people just run with it because it was the newest thing. And the Dreamcast, as phenomenal a console as it was, with features that other consoles didn't have, people by that time were like, "Screw it," you know. Just I'm on to the newest and better thing. And as we go further and further, that's how the mindset is for people now, even more so.
Yeah,
especially with the digital era.
Yep. And again, there's some great retrospectives out there on YouTube, and you know, the guys who were developing the 32X, you know, when Sega of Japan said, you know what, forget it, we're going full bore with the Saturn. You know, one of the producers of that thing said, well, why did we build this? Why? What you know? So what are you telling? You know, what are you telling people? And you know, it was you know, so.
Well, me as a Sega Saturn guy, or Sega CD guy, my natural progression for me, and everybody grows up different. Everybody, you know, their experiences are different. for me, coming off the Sega CD, my next big thing was the Sega Saturn. And I knew the 32X was out there, but I looked at it, and it had moved from a cartridge to a CD. So I'm like, CD's the newest best thing. So I'm like, I'm going with a Saturn. That's why I never ever really cared about 32X.
Well, but there were 32X CD games too.
Yeah.
Right.
Shadow Warrior, it's the only one I've got. Shadow Warrior, it's the only one. But there was another one, Fahrenheit.
Yep.
You know, so
Night Trap as well. No, I think.
You're right. I think Night Trap was.
Yeah.
Oh.
People were confused, man. People were just confused, and
they were.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth for the next thing that comes out. You know, realistically, only like 4 years later. You know, people still have a bad taste in their mouths, and you know, PlayStation had gotten, like we've already talked about, with the deals with third-party developers that weren't coming to Dreamcast that people knew. And, you know, it was hard for people to move off their Maddens, even though, like we said, the 2K games are vastly superior.
Right.
So it was it was tough for people to make that decision. I mean, even if you take the whole publisher and developer aspect out of it, just the general public was just so confused, I think, with two things coming out. It looked like they were being greedy, like, you know.
It did.
Parents, you know, my parents, I remember saying to me back then was like, no, you're not getting a Saturn, you just got a 32X, and they're just being greedy. They just want to sell you a million things now that they're popular. And you know, so
it comes down to messaging, right? At some point, it just got too cluttered, it got too cloudy, and I think Inferno nailed it. Like I think that was part of the thing too. It was just like, you know, you had that, and you had a young Sony now on the rise, you know, aggressive new hardware. It was tough to overcome, you know, and they had to be bleeding money.
Crash Bandicoot out in front of Nintendo
headquarters. They were aggressive.
Well, I mean, Sony,
they had the same aggressive marketing.
Yeah,
they were supposed to make Sega.
The system. Them and Nintendo was supposed to partner.
Exactly.
And then we heard the infamous story.
It was the Nintendo PlayStation, right?
Yep.
It was supposed to be like a CD attachment, and it fell through, and they felt backstabbed, and then, you know, Sony did their own.
That's why Nintendo and Sony to this day have really don't have a working relationship. They didn't even know.
Yeah, man. The seeds were planted, you know, and
what was it called? The Dolphin, or its code name, or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
The Dolphin. I thought the Dolphin was the GameCube. I thought Project Dolphin was the game. I had to look it up, but I
want to say the Nintendo add-on, which was Sony's, was the Dolphin. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's been so long ago.
It could be. I thought the Dolphin was the GameCube, but I could also be. You know, who knows what these weird.
That's been so long ago.
You know, the Wii. Well, since Sean's, this is another story I tell. I know this is not related, and we can always come back and do this on the Nintendo Roundtable, but I still remember the day that they named the Wii, and Sean and I were sitting at a diner table in L.A. coming out of that press conference going, the hell? What are they, on drugs?
Yeah, that was
that's a story for another
even
day.
though that system was successful, though. Right?
Yes, it was.
Ooh,
it was. And so, you know, now, you know, Sega went third party. So here's that second half of the story, and they started off trying to really bring that heat. They still had the NFL license, so they were, you know, you still had. I mean, some of the premier NFL games, NFL 2K games were on the Xbox. When they got the ESPN license and you were able to see the Chris Berman halftime show.
Yeah.
That's like the GOAT football right there.
Yep.
That game. Instant replays, Berman.
Oh, yeah.
They were aggressive. Did they have like the $20 price point or something?
$20.
It was Madden was in trouble.
Yep.
They made sure they secured that NFL exclusivity to get them out of here because they could not compete. They could when it came down to the gameplay and the graphics, they had them.
Yep.
They had them.
And that's why they won't. That is why they won't give it up, because they know what NBA looks like, and they know all they need.
Yes.
You know, to their credit, Visual Concepts and 2K took a shot at it with that All-Star Football 2K.
Yeah.
And I have it. I thought it was great. But
it
didn't have the licensing, and that
didn't have the license.
That's
the killer.
That's the killer. And EA tries that little slick job of, oh man, we'd love to have another company make a football game.
Bullshit.
Hey,
Sure.
yeah, it's like, you guys ever seen the movie Kung Fu Hustle?
Yeah.
He's out there. He's trying to act all bad. He wants to fight somebody.
Talk yourself down.
No, not you. The kid. No, not you. You're too. Yeah, the skinny guy. No, that guy. That indie developer that's making that physics-based football game. Yeah, we'll give it to him. Yeah. They don't want no part.
They don't want no smoke with 2K. Man. 2K
No.
was on them. I'll never forget it. I mean, the decision was so easy. They had the aggressive price point and the better game. I was not getting mad in those years. Like I was just like, I did 2K.
Think about too, and I'm pretty sure the Nintendo 64 didn't do this, but think about it. Remember the hole in that controller? See the hole in the controller?
Yeah.
You popped that VMU in the controller, and you were calling your plays from
Play.
the VMU.
Yes. So your buddy couldn't see it sitting on the couch. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yes.
Class.
Because every other generation before that, you pick your plays on the TV, so your buddy knows what buddy doing.
But even online.
Yeah. Even online, yeah.
Now, did any of you guys have SegaNet?
Yes.
As did I. Playing Virtual On and stuff like that. You got the taste of it when you could play Duke Nukem on the Saturn with the Netlink, But you had to call your buddy. It was peer to peer. SegaNet was again something revolutionary. They tried to do revolutionary with Sega TV, if you guys remember that. But SegaNet was really good, and it was as advertised, which you sometimes don't get these days. It was very strong, and games played unusually well. They played as well as they could. You could play pretty flawless games of NFL 2K or 2K. I'm trying to say. So the one I brought over was 2K1.
Yes.
2K1 did have online multiplayer according to this. So, yep, and keyboard support if you needed that.
Wow.
So I have a keyboard. I've got a mouse. I got the fishing controller. I got the gun.
The fishing. I remember that.
Sega Bass Fishing, man.
Sega Bass
Fishing. So, so we get to the third party aspect, and I think, this was a chance, in my opinion, for Sega to kind of regroup and get back to glory. Yeah. And I don't know what happened. And I don't know if you guys have any insight on it, but they, it wasn't for I mean, I know they tried with new IP. They tried, and we did get, Shenmue was ahead of its time. I actually have a similar E3 story about that too, because before Shenmue came out, they were testing the facial tech. So we walked by some monitors in their booth where they had one of the old guy faces, and he was like smiling or moving his eyes and stuff like that. And you just looked at that and you go, "How is that coming from this little box?" But Sega brought Full Auto, which was a really good game. If you pop in Full Auto today, and it holds up. It holds up. They did bring Shenmue to the Xbox, Shenmue 2. Sonic. I don't think there wasn't a mainline Sonic game, but they started to bring out like the collections and stuff like that. But really, I'm trying to think. Phantasy Star Online is the only other game that really hit me at that point. Phantasy Star Online was one of my killer apps, and it was just such a joy to play. And I've been waiting for another one. I know they tried to bring one out in Japan, and they hadn't brought it here, but Coop, Shenmue is what we would call a work simulator.
Yes.
Literally. Forklift simulator, yeah. So, but I don't understand. We got like Kinect games, and we got not much else. Now, the Yakuza series is a good testament to what they can do, but what happened to the big cool stuff. Where did the Super Monkey Balls go? Where did the Samba Digos go? Remember that, man, with the mat and the maracas?
Maracas, yeah.
Where, and then they tried to bring, Yu Suzuki's, went off to his own thing. Yuji Naka went off to do his own thing. And I don't even think, is Yuji Naka even still in gaming? I mean, they broke up all the AMs. I know. What happened?
The only thing that's giving me hope sting right now, I don't know if you caught it when I was at PAX East with Inferno, is speaking to Dotemo and those guys, Lizard Cube, with the Streets of Rage.
Yes.
And that gave me, I got a chance to interview the devs, man, and these guys were such passionate Sega guys. And to see what they're working and the way they told us the story, it was just that, they pitched it as diehard, Sega fans and Streets of Rage fans. And, it was this tremendous, really cel-shaded art style, but all in the essence of what the original Streets of Rage was. Even down to the, I got a chance to play it behind the scenes, even down to the musical choices. But I forgot the great composer's name, Yuzo. I forget his name. Oh my God.
He was hold on, I'm looking
who I'm talking about. I know who you're talking about. Because them Streets of Rage beats.
That was almost the intro music for the night.
I saw you playing around with it. Yeah. So it's like, I'm glad you went with Space Harrier though. That gave me feels.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, those tracks from this guy, that to me was the essence of Streets of Rage, and to hear them really implement and even tell us about Sega was so impressed. Not only did they allow them to do the success, they were even giving them behind the scene development documents where they had like cars and stuff that was supposed to be in the original Streets of Rage, but whether due to time constraints or graphical fidelity that they couldn't include, that it's going to be now in full.
Nice. Like
Yuzo Koshiro, man. Yeah, so I told the devs, I said, I know a lot of it is still to be determined. They're still finalizing certain things. Not everything's finalized, but from what I played, I'm like, dude, if you guys got to keep those tracks, man, because it's such an emotional beat to Streets of Rage. So they had like almost like medleys and remixes of certain tracks from it. It was fantastic. So that gives me hope that there's still some Sega left that knows what their essence is to allow guys like that to create the new Streets of Rage.
Hearing Laura Cognito talk about the music in Streets of Rage just takes me back. I mean, do you remember just before the title screen popped up, you see the story coming down, and do you remember the music? The music to that? Yeah. And then you start the game, and then all the music on the different levels, it just fit. And it was just like, holy shit, how do these guys figure out what would work, what music would work best, what beats work best for each level? Streets of Rage at the time was on another level.
Yeah, it really was.
At that time, let's be honest, like Final Fight was that game, right? In the arcade. Final Fight was that arcade.
Yep.
But if you had, the old NES, that's nothing Sega did well was co-op, right? Like even their Double Dragon had a 2-player legit, for the Master System. So it's like, that represented that arcade experience of a Final Fight, but with this great music. Shout out to Bill. So yeah, Yuzo Koshiro, his great soundtrack, these 2-player options, great moves, and then Streets of Rage 1 was great in its own right? But then when 2 came out, bro, that changed the game. I never see
the intro music. The intro music. It starts out with this, real
like a deep tone.
And then all of a sudden you get
and that beat drop.
It was hype. And that throw you in right now. You're like, and then it hit the start.
And then it hit the chords.
Even the boss fights. The boss fights would have that unique, that techno, that deep tempo. It was just got you pumped, man. It got you pumped.
You didn't hear in games at the time.
No.
Absolutely.
No. I mean, so much Sega music, when you go back and you think about some of the most iconic soundtracks, we started, and that was, so, as I was putting that video together today, I was going through so many soundtracks and just trying to find the right one. Afterburner, You know, that driving, you know, da-da-da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, you know, and there's so many of those things. Magical sound shower.
I was just about to say, I know we're not going to not talk about magical sound shower,
which I can play, by the way. I can play that.
Woo!
Even the Toe Jam and Earl theme.
Toe Jam
and
Earl.
And how did I forget? I mean, we just had Greg Johnson on here last month. I mean, one of the mascots of Sega that, you know, again, somebody who brought a game back, you know, from and Sega did all of those games except for the latest one. And I still to this day have that email that I showed him and I showed people. I got the chord chart for that too. That music, you know. Nice. But that's it. You know, you turned on Toe Jam and Earl and you heard that, and you just like you walk down the street just humming that stuff.
Bro, I'm still remembering, like I said, being in the arcades and being enamored with "Hang On."
Hang On!
You got into it, like it puts you in a place. I was on that bike, man. Like
I know.
Again, iconic music, and then Sting. I got to give you credit, man. I forgot how much I loved the Space Harrier music. Like it put that on. It just took me there, you know.
Yeah. But then that magic day. You walked into the arcade, and out of the back of the room, you heard Daytona! And somebody put it in, and you heard Rolling Stone! And you just, oh my God. I was like, you just were drawn to that. You were just drawn to that. I had those ripped onto my phone, and I play those in my car with the windows down in the summertime.
Oh my God!
I got sound on my phone.
Thunderblade's another one that I just so iconic, and that was before we even got to, you know, Spencer Nielsen and Tommy Tallarico and all these guys who were doing the CD music. This was just stuff out of the arcade.
You would hear Daytona USA, that Daytona over other arcades in the arcade. You're like, what is this? I need to go play this now.
Yes, and then you walked up and there were 8 of them together, and you were racing with 7 other people. It's just so much, but you know, I can't. There are a few outside of Sega soundtracks that I can really remember. You know, Lunar the Silver Star, some of those RPG games of old. I don't find myself latching on to, and again, this is not throwing shade at it. I just, you know, music of this era, some of it's decent. Ori and the Blind Forest, Celeste, some of this stuff's pretty decent, but I haven't been able to latch on to something in the way that I've latched on to Sega music, to you know, some of that stuff. There was a game on the Saturn, and it's funny because as I'm remembering this stuff, I've got like a straight line shot. I don't know if I'm gonna make anybody sick by turning my camera around, but I've got a straight line shot to my collection. And you can see the yellow boxes. You see the blue boxes. So the blue is the Sega CD. The yellow, the white is the Saturn, and below that's the Dreamcast. So I'm as we're talking, I'm looking up, and I'm going, oh my God, I forgot about this game. I mean, there were games like Mr. Bones that had and Bug. Bug 2, the sequel, had some tracks that were so good that for a while one of them was my ringtone. There's so much, and even, believe it or not, even not so much on the Dreamcast, the Saturn and the Sega CD, there were just, and to the extent the Genesis, there were just so many music tracks that I could listen to, like I could listen to, you know, my favorite 80s song.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely, man.
You know, Jeff, Nier has some good stuff. It's not that it's not good.
Right.
Mm.
I just can't find anything memorable for me.
You know? Back in the day, today's soundtracks meant more to a game.
Yes.
You know,
I think so.
they were
Yeah.
more important. Now it's all about, because the visuals are so, they're getting pretty close to almost real life status.
Right.
People concentrate too much on those.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing today, Days Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Just had started it, and I could not tell you if there was any music playing at all. Being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times in games, music tracks, scores, they take a back seat.
Take a back seat to graphical fidelity.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Back in the day,
Yeah.
music meant more.
Yeah.
Right.
Once in a while, you get something. You'd get one that kind of sound, but I just nothing that I would rip down to my down to my and again, not even on the Xbox 360 or the Xbox or to the extent the Dreamcast. Not even the Sonic games. The Sonic Adventure had some good stuff, but nothing memorable. It was all that Saturn and that Sega CD.
Mm-hmm.
The last musical anything game wise, I've put anywhere like on my phone as a ringtone is, believe it or not, it's gonna be a shocker. It's Killer Instinct title music.
Why am I not surprised, Jago?
I love that. I am being honest. I have listened to Killer Instinct title screen music without, before you hit start.
Yeah.
I probably 10, 15 minutes straight. I just love it, the beats and everything.
Bro, I'm with you, because it's like I'm Lord Cognito, and I got every Shinobi ringtone. I got the boss battle. I got the bonus stage.
Yeah.
Like, welcome to bonus stage. Like, that comes on when King calls me. I got the boss battle music when you're fighting. Like, it's hilarious. I give everyone on my contact list a Sega Shinobi ringtone or stage ringtone. It's hilarious.
When anybody calls me, it's dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yep.
From Killer Instinct, like, what is that? People ask me, like, that's the Killer Instinct title screen music. What is Killer Instinct? I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Some of the older, even like shoot 'em ups, like there were games. You guys remember Robolest for the Sega CD?
Yes.
Had that driving techno soundtrack. We talked about Earthworm Jim. That was like. There was a game, Wipeout also wasn't I'm not sure if it was before this game or not, but Wipeout wasn't the only like futuristic racing game that was out there. Sega had a game called Cyber Speedway.
Yeah.
And and I've never been able to find the band. The band is called Bygone Dogs. I never found any other tracks that they ever did but for this game. But they were so good. There's a track on there called Tabitha, and it's like a total full song. It's just you play it, and then you just drive down the road because you're just it infects you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say? King, give me a call. King, give me a call, King.
Sega beats with me, man.
Even like EA's FIFA games and stuff like that, Worldwide Soccer, they all had these great soundtracks that you remember. Like even before I could rip them down, I used to have a cassette deck. I used to plug I plugged my consoles into the cassette deck, and I recorded cassettes. I had a mixtape of video game music.
Nice.
It's pretty high tech. Because what I did with my Commodore 64, and a tape recorder, I just recorded from a TV speaker.
Oh yeah, me too. I would do that from like the Sega Genesis. I put it to the speaker.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, Peter, did you get into any of the Sega games themselves once they were out on the Xbox? I mean, they did bring some of this stuff on the PC too. You could get Sega Rally and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've played some of them. It's not that I remember exactly what titles. I mean, they're not ones that stuck out, like But I remember on the original Xbox, I played one of the Sega football games, NFL games. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
So now, you know, the one thing that we're hoping for, right, is the Sega Mini, the Genesis Mini.
Yeah. I got that pre-order from GameStop, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, I have it on pre-order too from Amazon.
And so
Looking forward.
we're gonna get Peter caught up on
Yeah.
Sega.
Yes.
So
So hopefully it's not like a like the Sony.
Oh no.
no,
Definitely not.
No.
But
I saw Sony's Mini at Walmart probably a month ago for $25, and I still turned it down.
yeah.
And this thing's not made by AT Games either.
It's not made by At Games, who had the license for how many years, and they were always trash. No, that's why I never bought one. The sound emulation was garbage. I heard it from other watch videos. Like, no, you're not doing Sega justice. This is a crime of humanity right here. What are you doing to my Sega?
And the difference between the Genesis Mini and the PlayStation Classic is if you go to the Genesis Mini official website, one of the tick points, the bullet point says includes 40 legendary games. So legendary. Yep. So.
Yeah, man.
But
is it the actual? It's not the PAL version, is it?
no.
Right, the 50 frames per second version. Is that what you're talking about? The slower version? No.
So we're all on the hook for one of these, right? Is that
Absolutely.
Oh, without question.
Yes,
without question.
Was it
No
September
question asked.
15th, I believe?
19th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, September. No, was it September 19th or 9th? Oh, let me look it up.
19th.
Okay,
19th.
You could be right.
Yeah.
You could be right.
Let me call GameStop real quick. When's it coming?
I thought they might try to do a 9-9 like the, or maybe they're just holding that off for the eventual Dreamcast Mini.
Probably it could be 91919.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is the one thing that it's sad that people are pining for this over their current games. You know, this should tell them something. You know, yes, I got Sonic. You know, Sonic Mania was fantastic, but it took Christian Whitehead to do it. You know, and Streets of Rage, it takes you know, how do you pronounce it? .emu or .temu or how do you pronounce that developer?
Yeah, I say it to Timo, but I could be pronounced it wrong.
I have no idea. .emu.
Who knows?
.emu.
But this is you know, and not every, you know, look, this is not a Sega only thing. You know, we were all like, why, you know, when Voodoo Vince Remastered came out, you know, it took the original developer who isn't even part of Microsoft to do that. You know, so that's not necessarily a Sega only thing, but you know, Sega has these iconic. Even beyond their yes, they sold Visual Concepts, they sold those IPs, but they still have some iconic IPs that they could play with, that they could bring back, and I just don't know why. I don't know why they don't.
They could do the same thing that Capcom's doing right now. Look at the phenomenal work they did with Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yeah.
Sega could do that.
Easily.
Yes.
Iconic franchises. They can really bring back in that manner.
Yes, and I don't understand.
I guess the question would be, when I think of this, because I kind of had that same feeling when I saw Streets of Rage and how authentic it was, and how, I mean, even not just them. I mean, a lot of Sega-inspired indies that were on that floor. You know, like Blazing Chrome, just like hardcore. Why can't we get something like that out of them too? You know, you think of that, and then I thought of that, and I talked to the devs, and I get their vigor for the games. Right? I'm thinking maybe Sega just doesn't have the people there with the same vigor. You know, what would you rather have? Sega make it and have people there that make it that just aren't as into it, or do you have like people from outside make it that you know are 100%?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
That is a good point, and I think you know and again, you're right. You know, a lot of those people have moved on. So I asked earlier where Yuji Naka went, and Project Jeff said he went to Square Enix.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yu Suzuki we know is hard at work at Shenmue 3.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are gone.
Yeah.
So, who's left to even make the games?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Plus, I mean, let's be honest. As we are getting older as Sega fans, all these guys are too. So new guys are coming in, and people are retired, and maybe have moved on and don't want to do it no more.
But then you look across the room, and there's Miyamoto still strong. I believe that oh my God, I'm having a breakdown of names tonight.
Brain fart.
I don't know why too. I got Sega on the brain so much. Kojima, he's in his 60s. He is 20 years older than me.
Really?
Yes, he is.
Wow.
He's 20 years older than me.
I saw a picture of him today with what was it, Robert De Niro on Twitter.
Yeah.
He looks like he's like 40.
Yeah, the man
is
timeless. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hang on, I'll tell you right now. These guys, and they're still kicking. So he's 55. I'm sorry, he's 55.
Okay.
So he's 10 years older than me. He is 10 years older than me. He's still developing video games, which is why I don't want to stop playing video games, because I don't want to get old and then I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna be old man kicking my great grandkids' asses at games.
One of the times my dad told me, he's like, "You need to stop playing video games. You're sitting too close to the TV. It's gonna hurt your eyes." He never did. And I got tired of hearing him say that. I was like, "Look, Dad, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I will be laying in my deathbed in the hospital with that shitty ass TV hooked up to the wall, and I'm gonna be like, look, bring me my console so I can kiss my wife and play some Sega before I go, or whatever." I was like, that will be in my, that would be like in my will. You better bring me a console. I am speaking the truth.
Bury this man with.
Bring me a console.
Bury this man with a 3-button controller, man. Bury him with a 3-button.
Facts. It ain't stopping, man. It's never gonna stop.
No, never. And I'm never gonna. I just bought, thanks to Peter. He got VGA cable for his Xbox, his OG Xbox, and so I went looking, and I'm like, well, let me punch in, HDMI and Saturn, and of course, you want to do that, you gotta finagle it a bit. You got to do the SCART, and do the SCART to HDMI, and I've heard good and bad things about that. And then somebody's like, well, if you really want it to be great, you have to do the FrameMeister, which is $400. And then I look at videos, and the S video looks just as good. So I'm like, well, no. Yeah. But because the Dreamcast did VGA, I had started out with getting this VGA to HDMI converter, and it works, but the screen is kind of off. Mm-hmm. So in the vein of looking for an Xbox VGA HDMI connector, I found one for the Dreamcast. And it works pretty well. The only complaint that I think I have is that it's a little bright. So I have to turn the brightness down a little bit. But it gives me a chance to natively, without having to jump through hoops, play my Dreamcast again. And be able to play it on my TV down here that's 75 inches of 4K goodness. And I take the brightness. I'm good with the exactly.
brightness.
I'll turn the brightness down a little bit. I'll set up a preset that I know will work for the Dreamcast, and I just to be able to fire up NFL 2K again, just to be able to fire up Carrier or Illbleed. You guys remember Illbleed?
Illbleed, yeah.
So give me some of it. Let's do that. Give me some of your favorite of each of those. So we all have all these systems. Give me your favorites on each. Start with the You can start as far back as the Master System, but give me your favorites on each.
Oh man, that's tough.
All right, I'll give you a minute, Lord. Go ahead, Mike.
It'll be tough for me too.
It's tough. So many, man.
I mean, so let's just go from like Genesis on. I'm just gonna go by platform. I don't know if I could pick like a favorite just overall Sega. You know,
give me you could give. I mean, we got time. Give me a top 4 or 5 if you need to.
All right. Okay, top 5 across all Sega. I would say number 5 would probably be Panzer Dragoon 2. That was a great.
Spy.
I didn't like all the Panzer Dragoon games. What was the last one that everyone loved, but I didn't really like that much? The last
RPG?
one,
the RPG,
the RPG one. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that one. Saga, yes, Saga, yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I thought they overcomplicated it a bit. I liked Panzer Dragoon series for what it was in face value. I thought it got overcomplicated, but I know critically, it did. That did the best.
Also, by the way, is extremely expensive to find. That is
a Saga, yeah.
Saga is you need to plop down a good $500 or $600 for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you on that. Number 4, Power Stone 1, not 2.
Yes,
two got a little chaotic. Yeah, I would say. I mean, I liked the 4-player when I had 4 people there to play with. It was more like a party game almost at that point. But Power Stone 1, man, the hanging on the rafters in the ceiling or like picking your spots. I thought it was really I thought the isometric view and all that. I thought it was really so different for a fighting game. It was really, really refreshing. Graphics were great, nice and colorful. One of my favorite Genesis games is probably number 3, and I spent a lot of time with this game, and it's Vector Man.
Vector Man. Wow. Yes.
Yeah. Vector Man would definitely be top 3. I mean, there were a lot of good, side-scrolling platformers and the like on Genesis. Whoa, echo. But Vector Man I thought was awesome. Like everyone likes Rise Star, but for me it was definitely Vector Man. Like I thought it was so like chaotic, but in a good way, and I thought the character was really likable. The robotics were kind of cool back then, to have a robot kind of protagonist. I thought it was kind of cool. What am I? That's number 3. So top 2, I'll get number 1 out of the way, I guess. I don't know what I would put as top 2. Number 1, I would have to say is probably Sonic CD.
There we go, my brother.
Okay. Sonic CD is definitely my best Sega game of all time. I mean, how transcendent was that? Like the difference between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, there was a big difference, but like Sonic CD I feel was kind of like Sonic 1.5 in a way. It got back to the roots. Sonic 2, the way they were going with like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 was kind of like just a run to the end simulator where the strategy was kind of like taken out of it a little bit, if that makes sense. Where Sonic CD, like, you did backtrack, you found those portals, you found, the ways to go back in time. It was engaging more than just like a sprint to the end kind of thing. So that was definitely number 1. Number 2, I don't know. Number 2 is going to be tough for me. I mean, I don't know why number 2 is tough for me, because there's a lot of games that I really played a lot, like Comic Zone. That was really iconic for me. Musha, like there were a lot of shmups, and I hate to like leave a shmup out, but
remember the one that came with the Sega CD originally before Sewer Shark, remember? Soulfeast?
So yep, that was good. I mean, Popful Mail. I mean, you guys remember that working designs like that?
Yes.
That's probably my number 2. That's probably my number 2. I'll go with that. Popful Mail. Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome RPG / adventure game. Like, if you haven't played Popful Mail, I mean, if you got to like just buy a CD for that, I think it's worth it just to try that out. I mean, that's a great game. But yeah. So that's probably my top 5, I would say.
Oh, excellent. Man, this is tough.
Do I need to go to Jago first?
Go to Jago now. I'm almost finished with it. I'm compiling.
Me too. It's okay. I'll do it really quick. The ones I can think of that I spent a lot of time in. Oh God, The very first Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. Ooh. Mind blown. Yep. Good God. I just had them in my head. Now they're going away. Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first Streets of Rage. The very first Streets of Rage with Axel, Blaze, and Adam. Mm-hmm. Just because it blew my mind. I mean, from the title screen onward. Mm-hmm. If you haven't played it, you're missing out on something. If you like Final Fight, you need to play that game, and then Streets Rage 2 too. But
I always thought 2 was better. And maybe
I've had 2.
But I would say this: I think 1 has the better music, low key.
It does.
Yeah, listen to
I had to.
Okay. All right.
I had to, and it had more characters, but the soundtrack I felt was better.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, shout out to Stillwell, Sword of Vermilion. That had the coolest intro. That boom, and the thunder.
Yes.
I love that stuff. Oh my God! All right, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead.
And you guys got to know. Maybe you don't know this about me. I've had every system pretty much known to man since I was born. So I've had a lot of games. And because I've never been a fanboy. I may be a fan of more so of a certain console over another, but I'm not a fanboy and ridiculous and toxic. I'm not that dude.
No, you are.
I had a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, all that. So it's tough for me because I even had the ridiculous 3DO on launch day.
Yeah.
The Panasonic 3DO.
I mean, 3DO kids in here.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Road Rash, baby. Road Rash. VR golf, man.
Metal Slug. Come on. So it's tough for me because I've had so many, TurboGrafx, I've had so many experiences on so many different consoles. Mm-hmm. I'll say the ones that stick out to me, like I said, was the very first Sonic, the very first Streets of Rage, because the music was, it was first of its kind, the first one, and the music was phenomenal. The one I never beat till this day, and I didn't know you could get it on the PlayStation 4, but I will be picking it up now, is, Night Trap. Night Trap.
Night Trap made the go?
It's like a CD. I was always trying to save Dana Plato or do her work, her bitten.
I respect
Dragon's Lair. Was really good. I know it. Yeah, and then probably like Inferno, the very first Power Stone. Because I'm a fighting game fan. Yeah. But I've been spread so thin. I'm surprised I ain't snapped already with all the consoles.
No.
Nice.
But I was always a Sega guy first. As long as it was a Sega console, my allegiance laid there.
Yeah. All right, I think I got it.
But
I'm going to cheat a little bit.
You can cheat all you want.
I'm going to cheat.
Because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat big time when we get to mine.
Listen, it's too many games, right? So for me to leave certain things off is just sacrilegious. So
if you want to do series, you can do series.
That's what I'm going. I'm going series. So the first one is just, all right, me just cheating because I can't leave any one of these off because they all shape me. And it's the Sega racers, you know what I'm saying? Like in the arcades, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, the hang on from me, I'll never forget. Like, again, you had the handlebar in the arcade. You had the thing. You put you in a bike. And again, when we're talking about music, that iconic music. I remember getting to the stage 4 when it turns night and you're like racing hard and the hairpin turns. Those things, again, you can't leave out when you talk racers that, super hang on, of course, Outrun. Right? Because of musical sound, how fun it was, graphical fidelity, amazing. So the Sega racers in the arcade, I'm kind of cheating. That's on the list. You know what I'm saying, right?
No, you're fine. No.
Now, this one is kind of, I don't know, not too many people know about it. But I spent so many hours on this game on the Master System. It was a little game. It's kind of like anime based. It was called Zillion.
Zillion! Oh, hell yeah!
Bro, I don't know what it was about this game. Landed on a planet, you went underground in this base, and you had these 3 iconic characters that you had to find, and you had to write codes down and go to terminal. It was like I got engrossed with this game. They came out with a sequel to it, Zillion 2, where the graphics were way better, but they kind of changed the game into like a side-scrolling platformer, and it was very hard. But it had the core of what the game was about, but not exactly. So, but Zillion, for whatever reason, man, I played hours in the game, so that's on my list. All right, the third one, I don't think it's enough credit, is the Phantasy Star series.
Phantasy Star. I was going to say
Phantasy Star. I mean, I know Nintendo, quote unquote, was the RPG system, right? And I'm not taking any away the Final Fantasies, the Chrono Trigger. I get it. But Phantasy Star, if you're as a Sega kid, Phantasy Star was your game. Because Phantasy Star won on the SMS. Like, it was just amazing 3D graphics. You had a list. You had your characters. 2 is the GOAT as far as I was. Phantasy Star 2, there's like Genesis, the first 6 mega cartridge, graphical fidelity, great boss, great long game, a lot of twists. 3 I didn't like, I'll be honest. 3 was the one with this generations and marriage stuff and care for it too much. But 4, 4 was the return to greatness. So the Phantasy Star, and of course online on Dreamcast. I mean, we can't take away. So yeah, like the Phantasy Star series holds a special part for me. We got to go with Jago, Streets of Rage, bro. Like the series, it changed the game. Beat 'em ups, the music. You know, as a home console owner, having that on the Genesis as a showcase type of a game. You know, and pinnacle for me, obviously. I mean, 1 is special. 2 is the pinnacle though, like graphical fidelity, all the stuff. You know, 3 they kind of jumped the shark with some of the characters. And
3 I didn't like 3
zombies, and I'm like, okay, y'all getting a little too. But hopefully 4 will bring up. So Streets of Rage. And number 1, Sting. Come on. Like, I'm Lord Cognito, man. If ain't a Shinobi game on this, like, come on. Like, at the end of the day, the arcade, we already know how much it influenced me. The music, how great it was, and the ninja magic. Everything happens. If you
get a chance, if you get a chance to get your hands on a Saturn, get Shinobi Legends.
Yes. I played the emulation version. Very good. Very good.
Very underrated. Very underrated. I love the video, the full motion video too.
Full motion video, yeah.
So, but very underrated soundtrack.
Very underrated soundtrack. So for me, as far as the GOAT of this series, like Shinobi 1, it's going to always hold a special place. Revenge. I would say Revenge is up there. It's very close, but I gotta say Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master.
Yes.
That's fire.
100%.
That is probably the pinnacle from a system standpoint. All the different things, the animation, the running, the climbing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the pinnacle. And then Shinobi had those crazy boss fights, right? Revenge Shinobi, you fought Spider-Man and Batman and, the Terminator. You had all these easy bosses in a Shinobi game. So Shinobi was always bombastic. And I don't want to sleep on Shadow Dancer.
Shadow Dancer.
Those were like those. So definitely. So again, so probably the Shinobi series, Streets of Rage, Phantasy Star series. Zillion was just my in the corner game for me, and of course Sega Racers. The Daytonas, the Hang-Ons.
Daytona is timeless, dude.
Yeah, because they represent graphical fidelity at its time to each of those races.
Yes.
Anything looking like those games, and that's the thing. What I believe it was the AM2 engine and those guys.
Yes.
Beautiful games, man. Beautiful.
If I walked into an arcade now and saw Daytona USA like it was back in the day, I would sit down and put a lot of quarters or dollars in it as it would be now.
So that's my list, man.
And that's a great list, guys. So I'm gonna throw you some that have been timeless for me that we hadn't touched on.
Let's get to it.
So, these are the ones that I would play over and over and over.
Let's go.
Jet Set Radio.
Yes, Jet Set Radio. I thought about that earlier when you were talking about the Dreamcast. Jet Set Radio has some great music too, as far as I remember.
It does, and it was it just whenever I had a chance to play it, I did. Also, Michael Jackson not infused, but I think he had a hand in this. It was the Space Channel 5 series.
PlayStation 5, yes.
Ooh la la. And that,
Ooh la la.
that was
Ooh la la.
sort of that. The music just catches you because like I say, I'm into the music side of things. The music just catches you. Getting so I wasn't as much into the Phantasy Star series as you, Cog, but Phantasy Star Online is my third most favorite game. I would sink hours upon hours. I would start playing it at like 8 o'clock at night. Next thing I know, it's 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And playing it online and finding people to go out with you and go hunt, and things like that, and you could talk to them, and you could make friends in that little space porty kind of area.
Yep.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. The Sonic series is a little bit more for me. There were some games that people didn't think of that I loved in the Sonic series. It wasn't just like Sonic CD is my number one all time. So like Mike, I can't. There's no. It is to me the best Sonic game that has been ever created.
Great.
And it's just. But Sonic 3D Blast.
Oh.
And there was a vast difference between the Genesis version and the Saturn version.
Yeah, I was gonna say which version.
The Saturn version. The Saturn version had a soundtrack on it too that was really good. I was always, like I said, I was always drawn to music. So, some of my other favorite games are the Bug series. Not because the games were, they were innovative. They were kind of like Gex. Remember Gex? I felt like it was sort of like that. But the music, it just drew you in. And then, those RPGs that were on the Dreamcast, The Carrier, Ill Bleed. There was one on the Genesis too called Landstalker, if you remember.
I remember Landstalker. That was really good. It was kind of like isometric kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yes, it was very good. Graphically amazing. Yes. Great game.
But yeah, my most perfect favorite, was Sonic CD. I mean, it had to be. I just spent so much time on it, and I was the guy who watched the opening video no matter how many times I played it. One more, and it's a series.
Let's go.
And I know, and it was funny because Stillwell said he was going to be massively upset if we didn't talk about it.
Let's go.
The Mickey Mouse series.
Ooh.
So there were 3 for me.
Give me some time. Give me them titles.
Castle of Illusion.
Salute this man. That was greatness.
World of Illusion.
Yes.
Which was good.
My boss was loving you with Castle of Illusion.
Now, I'll tell you this story. I got hooked on this game, Mickey Mania. The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse. And one of the coolest things about this game was the very first level. The very first level was Steamboat Willie.
Yes.
And it was in black and white. And it looked, and it had that music, that Steamboat Willie style music.
Yes.
So I had a chance to talk with David Jaffe on another show about a year ago. And David Jaffe, before he got into Twisted Metal and all that stuff that he was doing, and he was at the time he was doing Drawn to Death. He had a part in this game. He was a producer for the game, and it was actually he designed it. So it was designed by Mike Guillaume and David Jaffe. And I told him then, I said, this is a wonderful, wonderful game. I loved it. It was Sony ImageSoft too, and I said, I thought it was as good as Castle of Illusion. He said to me, I absolutely hated that game. He hated making this game. He said, how do you like this game? It's one of the worst games out there. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, this is, this had Steamboat Willie, the Mad Doctor. It had Mickey and the Beanstalk, Lonesome Ghosts, the Prince and the Pauper. It had all this great. This was the precursor for me to what Epic Mickey became. Yeah. And so I said, look, I I would still love to have your autograph. So I said, if I sent you the book, would you sign the book for me? Sign the back of the book. So he actually, I don't know if you can see it, he signed the front and the back.
Nice.
I got David Jaffe to sign the front and the back.
Salute,
of this
Jeff. That's what's up.
Shout out to Jeff. But the Mickey series, you know, and it bled into like the Donald Duck series too. Like they knew how to Sega for all their you know hardcore games, for all that adult vibe. They knew how to make a Disney game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Most definitely.
Quackshot.
Quackshot, yes.
They knew how to make games for kids. You know, I talked about Tasmania earlier. You know, and there were 2 Tasmania games that came out. You know, they knew how to make those games. They knew how to appeal to kids as well. You know, Alex Kidd. You know, and Alex Kidd was out on the Master System too, right, Cog?
Yes.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
That's around.
Miracle Boy.
Yep.
You know, was it Miracle Boy and Monster World? Was that what it was?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Coop brings up Aladdin.
Right.
You know, which wasn't a Sega game, but and in fact, most people the consensus is of between that and the Super Nintendo version that the Genesis version of Aladdin's the better version.
Yeah.
No, Aladdin. I remember. You're making me remember. I had that too. God.
Yeah, they really had those games.
They had Disney on lock, but they knew how to make those Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck games, and so those were you know. But these were games that just again the music, you know, the music just I can't say enough about how much that drove my love of you know of not just video gaming, but of what Sega was doing at the time. When they were at that pinnacle, you know,
absolutely.
When you were playing those games.
I'm gonna say this now. I think something like the music in video games, because my first love was video games, and you know, and of course I heard the music. I think, and I have an older sister, and you know, she got into like listening to music, heavy metal, or whatever she was listening to at the time, and I think that, you know, hearing all these great soundtracks and all these video games that were playing is what pushed me to actually start getting into actual music at the time. And
absolutely.
You know, because my mom and dad, they really didn't listen to music growing up. I mean, I remember riding with my dad places, and he would not turn on the radio with a dial or whatever car we were driving in at the time. And I was like, when I got older, I was like, why don't you listen to music? Like, I just don't really care about it. So I really had no musical influence. Video games for me is what, with their techno beats and all, you know, whatever, with like Streets of Rage. I think that's what drove me to actually, like, you know, of course, I heard my sister. She was all into the big hair bands, but, you know, I think that's what drove me to enjoy rap music, you know, or anything different than rock and roll. Cause
absolutely. Games are the precursor for that. I agree.
Yeah.
Because they open you up to genres you probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't have access to. You know, I wasn't even into techno like that. But I remember when I heard them Streets of Rage beats, and I was just like, "Man, this is wow! What is this?
It's fucking sick." Kids don't say that nowadays, though.
It's also after 12. You can drop that here and there on this show. We're like public TV. You gotta wait till after 11 to really drop it. But
I love hearing this.
But there was still also something about hearing that soundtrack in Golden Axe, you know.
Oh yeah, the Golden Axe today too. We really need to give light on that Golden Axe. Change the game too.
Yeah.
You know, there was
the title screen music, the Golden Axe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sega had a band called SST that you know there was some of the composers and stuff, and they would do live versions of this stuff. And if you could find that, if you search for it, there's a website out there where you can get this stuff. It's all, you know, I don't know that it's public domain, but nobody's taken them down yet. But if you just search for, you know, Sega music, you can find this stuff. You know, and like the Shinobi music was great. As you got that stuff on your phone. I mean, that's
Still got it, man.
you know, the Sonic CD soundtrack, the whole thing. You know, I used to. The problem with that soundtrack though that I found was, and this was something that I I didn't understand the technology back then as much as I do now. If you go back in time, you hear a different quality of music than the future and the present. The future and the present tracks are all Red Book audio. So Red Book audio is the stuff that's on CDs that you can listen to in a regular CD player. All of the tracks in the past are all just straight PCM music that's done by the console. That's done by the Sega CD.
Wow.
And that, so because I went looking for a couple of those, and I'm like, well, why can't I find them on the disc so I can rip them? And you couldn't, and because that's like they were PCM. So in order to do that, you had to kind of play it and hook up your recorder of whatever you had at the time.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but man, so while we could talk about this all night, it is after midnight. I am sure wives all over the place are going.
Yeah, we got to get moving.
my girl does said, "Screw it, I'm going to bed."
Yeah, my wife went to bed too.
Yeah, I got to get up for some Endgame, unfortunately, with Kaibatsu and Solve.
All right. Well, the hashtag no spoilers.
No spoilers.
I'm trying to put a dent in that game everybody's hating on right now. Days Gone.
Yeah, I'm picking up.
I'm gonna pick it up. I gotta pick that up. Hey,
GameStop got a nice little 48-hour trading option. If you don't,
I picked up the collector's edition today.
Wait to see. Do you have one of those big giant statues that rotates like King?
Oh, no, that's King. That's his lane. I don't
couldn't believe that when I saw that on Sunday. I'm like, what the hell is that?
If you want to see the collector's edition, just look. I put some tweets out there with the stuff that came in the box. So it's on my Twitter.
Absolutely.
Guys, I gotta tell you, man, because I could do this all night. This has been
I could too.
This has almost been therapeutic.
Yeah.
This has been therapeutic.
I have enjoyed this.
And I knew it was really funny because I think it was you, Mike, that said, "Hey, do you have any topics for Friday night?" And I said, we gonna need topics.
We ain't gonna need topics.
I said this conversation will carry itself.
See, this is what I was afraid of. I was afraid of, with no topics, it'd be a 3-hour podcast. So
it was good though, man.
Better put a 3-hour block aside.
Yeah, we're talking about Sega.
My old lady actually asked me. She's like, "How long you gonna be in there?" I said, "With Sega, it could be all night."
Yeah, true.
Jago, though.
True.
I think my wife texted me and said, "Do you need milk?" Yeah, that's it. I can pick up some milk on the way home. So yeah, I mean, no, I as much as I love it, I don't want to get the 3 hours either, and it wouldn't be fair when that Nintendo Roundtable is only an hour and a half. So.
No.
Burn.
I'm just kidding.
For a reason.
I'm just kidding. But Peter, what'd you think, man? It's passionate.
Yeah, I mean it's super cool to hear, all about the good old times, like golden age of gaming.
I know.
Yeah.
It's nothing like hooking up a pair of headphones to your Sega Genesis when you couldn't do it on the Super Nintendo.
Headphone jack on the front. Yep.
Little volume knob, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little volume slider.
Yep.
Turn that damn TV down. I'm like, all right, Dad.
All right.
In the Sega Genesis.
And it was all in stereo. So you had when you had that Streets of Rage thing, you had dun 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 dun.
Let's go.
Yes, man.
So I really, guys, honestly, I this is like I said, this has been like I dropped like 20 years back, and this has been fantastic.
Absolutely,
I
man.
cannot thank you guys enough for being with us.
This has been one of the favorite podcasts whatever you want to call it, podcast I've ever been on, man. Talking about Sega.
Awesome.
All you guys.
Yeah,
this nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
It really is. It really is. And I want to thank just a fantastic chat room tonight, man. You guys on lock. Sean, welcome back, brother. we have some plans for Sean. Sean is NLG through and through, and he's his, our like I said, him and I, man, walked a lot of miles together, and so I'm looking forward to talking to him.
That Vector Man on screen right there, holy shit!
Yeah. So
wow.
So do me a favor, I want each of you, because each of you represent a show of your own. I want the three of you guys to tell us all about where we can find you. Mike, we'll start with you in the middle. Our great friends at Four Guys with Quarters.
Yeah, first off, let me just say, I joke around about the 3-hour podcast, but it was honestly like really engaging the entire time, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So I appreciate you asking me to be on, and I'm sure these guys do too. But for for our podcast, Four Guys with Quarters, we are currently on Thursdays. I don't know if that will change, but for now we're on Thursdays at 5, usually like around 5:30 or 5 p.m.
It's so tough to make your podcast, bro.
I
know. I hear that, but then I was hearing it from like people like Daz too. So you gotta pick a time that works, and then Thursday's kind of crowded, so want to get us in a good spot.
Might be getting a little more crowded.
Might
be getting a little more crowded.
Yeah, so Thursday nights you can find us on YouTube Live, but just search Four Guys with Quarters, you'll find us on there, and we're on multiple different podcast networks, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, podcasts, iHeartRadio, that kind of stuff. So you can find us on all those. Just search Four Guys with Quarters. You will probably find us pretty easily. But yeah, appreciate being on and appreciate, being part of this great cast. I mean, it was awesome.
All-star.
Yeah.
All-star. My Lord, the Lord of the Realm.
The Lord Cognito.
Lord Jago, Lord HDK, and Lord man, like this was fantastic. I mean, I can't even imagine. Like the time flew like Inferno said. Like it was so engaged. Like all the feels, how long it was. All the different errors all the time.
We're not at 3 hours. We're not there because we started late, so we're not there.
Listen, man, this is fantastic. I mean, first of all, shout out to you guys for this. As a Sega kid, definitely a dream come true to just take it back to the glory days, to the essence.
Just about Sega.
Why we fell in love with that company and still love it. So, yeah, man, this is great, man. You already know. Lord Cognito on Twitter. Ironlord Podcast on Twitter, Ironlord Podcast YouTube. Please check us out. Every Sunday is Lord's Day, 1 p.m. Eastern. We should have a nice guest from Wicked Game Gaming, talk some gaming. And obviously we have some cool little shows besides our Ironlord Podcast on the channel. You can catch the king of statues, King David. King showcasing David. Fantastic.
His statues are ridiculous.
If you don't see this Thanos statue that he's got right now, the end games. It's.
I don't want to. It's gonna make me cry.
Oh, you got to, man. You got to. Listen, I've learned not to compete with that man long time.
I can't compete with that man.
Oh man, you just let him do his thing. But yeah, please check him out. I also have a show called The Last Word with Ebontis. So just talking about looter shooters. That's a favorite of ours. Destiny Division, all that good stuff. And yeah, man, we still have content coming. And be on the lookout Saturday. We may have like a debut. Me and Lord Sovereign may debut a little special little spoiler cast for the comic book, the Transformers, the MCU, the DC guys. So we're trying to do a little kind of like a live spoiler cast for guys that like myself that we go to these geek movies all the time, and I feel me and Sav have some of the best conversations post movie, and we want to kind of capture that for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. I think it's gonna be I think the tentative name is Roundtable Reviews is what we're going with, and yeah, we should be on the lookout for that tomorrow. For Endgame might be the debut episode, so be on the lookout.
So, I'm not gonna be able to watch it till after I see the movie.
If you ain't watch it, stay away.
Okay, yeah, I'm staying away. Sunday. Exactly. Sunday morning.
Exactly. You watch it Sunday morning, Jago. You watch it. But and of course, you already know Ironlord Podcast. But look, Stinger, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is tremendous.
I don't know that this would have worked without you guys. Honestly, this wouldn't have been. It just wouldn't have. You are three, and Jago, I'll give you a second to Retro, but the three of you guys were immediately the three that I thought of.
Nice.
Immediately, like if you were still out of commission, Cog, we'd have postponed this. I'm not even joking. Not even joking.
I'd have been okay with you postponing it for Lord Cognito. How about that?
I'm not even kidding.
Thank you
Same
so
with
much.
Mike, man. We would have postponed it if Mike was
Yeah,
available.
man. Any of you guys, any of you Sega guys.
This is you guys are like the Sega family I know.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, man.
Jago, talk to us.
Yes, sir.
Where we can find you?
Oh, good Lord. You can find me. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. And you can actually see my face on Instagram. It's Jago Kuken. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Believe it or not, I do have a tiny YouTube channel that I do, something with once in a while. Xbox, all the same name. PlayStation 4 or PlayStation period. I'm not even changing my name. It's Tuscany34. It's my old gamer tag, but you can find me there at that. And you can find me on the most important thing, Retro Renegades with my boy Graphic God, UK Dazarus, Stinking Corpse, and Supersonic Pony Station. That's good time there, man.
Yeah.
All we do is we hang out. We pretend we're all hanging out at the arcade like we were when we were younger, and just we talk, and there's no topics. Kind of like tonight, was one topic tonight, but we all just flowed and just reminisce on Retro Renegades. It's just about talking video games while either Supersonic Station or Graphic God plays 16-bit video games. Awesome. That's it.
I've caught it.
Yeah.
Great show.
And of course, shout out to Jay Graphic God, who he is responsible for a bit of what you see on this screen.
Absolutely.
The updated NLG logo is his. The background.
That's a nice guy, dude. He's really a nice guy.
Yeah, and he did that. He did that for me. At a low point in things, and that's he did that to boost me up, and it kind of energized me to get back to what mattered about doing shows like this, and that's this.
My avatar you see on Twitter, I asked him for one. I was going to buy one from him. He's like, since you're part of Retro Renegades, he said, it's good, dude. I got you. He threw it together, and the first one to comment and it was Luca. She said, "That is fire."
Yeah. Graphic guy did for our show, The Last Word. He gave us this like Hanna-Barbera feel. I love what he did for us, man. Oh, he's amazing, dude. He's really good. Mm-hmm.
He is amazing. So, and then you're watching us, so you obviously know where we are.
True.
Peter,
salute to the chat today, too, man.
Oh my goodness, the chat.
Absolutely.
The chat.
Shout out to the chat. I know I wasn't in it, but shout out to all you guys for coming and supporting us.
Bill Stillwell.
Anybody who I didn't see or didn't respond to. This is a new thing for me. I don't do Skype. I downloaded Skype today for this. Okay.
So our natural next progression is to get your ass on camera.
There you go.
Yeah. I gotta get it set up. Yeah, I gotta get it set up. But
I will look like a big S. Oh man, said thank you, and Stillwell and Jeff. Some of these guys, Coot and Jeff, and Inferno, who's here, but usually he pops in the chat room. We got such a dedicated chat room. I always say without them, Peter and Chris and I, we could go into a Xbox party and talk to each other, but to be able to interact, And Jago, you're in there when you're not sleeping.
Normally when I podcast, it's just my avatar, and I do all this on my phone. I'm not a PC guy at all.
That's okay.
My parents didn't. My parents didn't get their first PC until 1998. How about that? I was 21, so I'm not a PC guy.
98.
So I learned how.
What was that? Tandy 1000?
No, it was actually a Gateway.
Oh my God, Gateway.
Yes.
Yeah. So I learned how to do everything on a smartphone. So that's how I podcast. So
Well, we'll get you. Well, we gotta get you like a little phone stand, and then you can turn your camera on, and then it'd be like a webcam.
Can you imagine me holding my phone for 3 hours?
No, you just put it on a little.
Put it on a
you put it on a little stand and put the stand on.
Like a tripod almost.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, well, I gotta buy a tripod.
Oh, for God's sake! I will help you with this, Jago. I will help you with this. So, all right. So, and
one of the best therapeutic podcasts I've ever been on in my life. I'm gonna tell you that.
Oh yeah, man.
And Peter, I'm glad you hung out. I know that you didn't do Sega stuff, but I know you wanted to kind of soak in what we were going to do tonight.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate it. Where can they find you?
Well, they find me every Friday. But you can find me on Twitter, HTK360, PlayStation, HTK360. On the Xbox, it's HTK. And I'll be here on the podcast.
Shout out to you, HTK.
9:30 p.m.
Sometimes tonight you look like you were so bored. I ain't gonna lie.
No, I didn't look bored. I was, in the meantime, I was playing
He's getting
Graveyard
done.
Keeper.
He's getting get done. That Graveyard Keeper. That's what it was.
That's all right. That's all right. So, and of course, you can find me on Twitter once in a while, Stinger NLG. However, you can also catch the official NLG Twitter at OG_NL Gaming, where we just throw in, news. I retweet a lot of stuff, and then you can find out about the show. And of course, we are on every Friday night at 9:30 p.m. That may be shifting. We're gonna find out, and if we do, we will announce that through those channels. Just obviously, I gotta check with the boss. So. But
check with the boss.
Yep. But guys, I don't even know. I just was
a phenomenal show.
Just dude. Absolutely.
I'm honored to be on a podcast with all you guys.
This is an all-star. This is an all-star show. I love to do collaborations. Cog, I love to come on with you. This is your second time here.
Yep.
Mike,
you will be back in the realm as well.
And Mike, you just won't be the last time you're here. At some point, if I'm on vacation, I can get on Four Guys.
All right, sounds good.
So, and Jay did invite me to Retro Renegades, so that will happen.
Nice.
That will happen.
Oh,
yeah, you're a perfect fit for that should happen.
Yeah, that's. So I appreciate all you guys, and the great thing that I love about every one of you is that you do it right. Every one of you guys do this right. First off, you King, Sovereign, and Addict, and there are times when I'm like outside, I'm like outside doing work or mowing on, and I just have to stop. Because like King, I had to just stop on King last week. It was just so funny, but then I just had to stop. I had to go over to the keyboard. Get me in here. Get me in here. Get me in. This man can't. Somebody has to stop this man.
Yes, he invokes that. Oh my God, the Ninja Theory thing where he's comparing it to the Jackson 5 as the bad. Oh my God, he was on a roll.
The Joe Jackson, right?
Yes.
Everybody wanted that Michael.
Yeah, he's gonna Hellblade the Michael Jackson,
right.
their other IP.
Well, what about right? Remember what I said? I said, well, wait a minute. What about Janet? And then he disparaged Janet. So at that point, I had to come on. I had to try to get on and defend Janet's honor.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, you guys, I appreciate you so much. I love what you guys do.
I'm gonna say this now. You guys all follow me on Twitter. I am not about the negativity. I do not do negativity. I will not spread that shit. I'm a video game fan first. I'm an Xbox guy more so than PlayStation because it was natural progression from Sega to Xbox. Mm-hmm. But I do not promote fanboy wars. I do not promote negativity. That is what I'm all about.
With you, bro. We all gamers at the end of the day.
Exactly.
That's right. So that's the common thread between all of us. Doesn't matter what platform.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, it doesn't matter.
So, well, thank you guys again. Peter, thanks for hanging in there with us tonight. Chat room, awesome as usual. We will see you guys next Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm saluting like people can see me.
Everybody have a great weekend. Get your end game on. No spoilers.
No spoilers, please.
And play on, gamers.
Very good, guys.
games.
Wow.
We'll give you that one more time out the gate.
Woo!
One more time for Cog.
Go. Let me hear my Harrier. Get some feels.
That's good.
It's not coming through, at least
No,
on mine.
no sound. I ain't got no sound.
Really? Because I'm sharing.
No, the image is great. I love it.
Yeah, this is great. I don't hear anything either.
How about now?
No.
All right. Darn it.
Nope.
Oh, Michael Jackson, Daytona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it in my head. I've heard it so much.
That's a good
Oh man, Echo the Dolphin.
Echo. I changed the game too, man. Remember that
Yeah,
again?
it was. Joe Montana.
Oh, woo!
Just right.
So
Jojo Merrill.
Yep.
We all know that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that Dreamcast startup screen.
And it's this does commercials with the
Yes, love it.
Virtual
Virtual Cop, love it.
Yes.
That Sega CD startup screen, I ain't seen it like
so
20
long. I know.
Holy shit.
Good shit, fellas,
Wow.
man. Really appreciate